So to recap what previously happened, we have finally escaped the mansion. A castle, not mansion. Sorry, I'm in my gothic manor kind of mindset at the moment. We escaped the castle using the powers from our fairy godmother, who made us invisible for a little bit. And we are now dressed in donkey skin, pretending to be a peasant. Well, we're not really pretending. I don't think we're doing a great job of pretending or even trying to pretend. And we are, we left our best friend, because if she came with us, it would have been very obvious that we were Kiona, and, you know, not just random peasant who is wearing donkey skin, which is, you know, a little bit standoutish on its own, but I don't know. I don't know how society works in the Middle Ages. I only read, like, 2 books on it. And I'm pretty sure, though, in those 2 books, like, wearing animal skin was definitely standoutish. But you know what? It works for Kiona, so. The thing is, though, we're already over here, so we're kind of already in safe territory, I feel. I feel like once we're in the Lord's territory, surely we're not going to be finding, like, random, like, soldiers and things. Although I guess if any citizens happen to be hanging out on this side, they could always be like, hey, that's the princess. Although, I don't know how much Kiona really ventured out in the first place for citizens to really know what she looked like. I don't know. I'm not sure. But I feel like things are going really well. We found a nice little farmer family, and their daughter found us, passed out, took us in, tried to help us, and then we were like, so we're staying here then, right? And she's like, what? And then her family's like, well, since you promised her you'd take care of her, now you have to take care of her. And so that's what we're doing. We are pretending to be a farmer, or trying to be a farmer, and doing very badly. And now we shall continue. Boop. There we go. Oh, that's a lovely tree. Crossing the hill appeared never-ending to her. Even though it was a short trip, she was thoroughly exhausted when she put down her 2 buckets in the pen, which was located nearby a tiny building made of stone, wood, and straw. Here we are. You'll have to pay close attention so the animals don't escape, okay? Struggle of carrying water. The thing is, though, that's something that I don't think too often about being difficult. However, the fact that I can't carry, like, a single, you know, those, like, 1 liter bottles of, like, not 1 liter, like 5 liter bottles of those jugs of water that you can buy. When our building was out of water for that entire day, remember that day? They gave us all those, like, 5 liter bottles of water to, like, kind of get through it. And I could not carry that. I still can't carry that. It is so heavy, and I think that that's probably the same amount of water that they're carrying in the bucket. And I'm like, I get it. I get it, Riona. Or Kiona. Not me getting mixed up with Final Fantasy. I get it. I think carrying water is very deceptively difficult. I think you're just like, oh, it's just water. We carry that every day. We're all holding bottles of water. But then I realized that bottles of water can make your bags and things so much heavier than when you're not carrying them. And that's why I don't carry bottles of water around with me, even though I need to, because I'm so dehydrated. But yeah. If we leave a door open, you can be sure they're gonna wander around, especially the geese. Those are pretty sly. Alright. Let's begin with the heavy drinkers. Come in without your buckets. We're gonna lure them in the pen so we can clean the stables. The princess shyly entered the building, with Fleur following on her heels. Some weak sun rays were passing through a few wooden planks, but what struck the most, beside the narrowness of the place, was a strong smell coming from the animals. Oh no! Kiona badly wanted to pinch her nose and had a hell of a job hiding her repugnance. The farmer took notice and jovially said, "You must really not see animals very often to make such a face." See, Kiona, if you went to see the donkey that you let die so horrifically, you would have known how stinky that donkey was. With the help of a stick, The young girl urged the donkey and a few sheep that were resting in the dimness to move and led them toward the pen where some geese and a goat were already prancing around. Finally, she closed its gate and waved to Kiona to stay inside the enclosure. Given your face earlier, I'll deal with retrieving the manure. Just keep an eye on them and give them some water. It should keep them busy while I finish this. The princess nodded. She was not at ease surrounded by those geese, who were honking left and right. By contrast, she felt a great deal of affection toward the old donkey, which was peacefully drinking. Perhaps because of the guilt that was tormenting her ever since she had fled the castle. The kingdom's magic donkey had been put to death through her own fault after all. Wait, if the magic donkey poops gold, does it stink? Oh, wait, that's true. Probably not now that I think. You know what? What the fuck is the digestive processes of the magic donkey? It probably isn't very stinky now that I think about it. Oh. That's so strange. Does it poop gold coins? It's got an alchemy tummy. Wait, that makes so much sense. It's got an alchemy tummy. And it's like chemically changing it. I have no idea how it would work. I mean, that's fair. I don't think they really thought too much about that in the original story. That's so funny, imagining like a little cauldron in its tummy changing all the chemicals. As she was petting the animal, she raised her voice in Fleur's direction. What is the purpose of this little donkey, which seems so sweet? Patty-chan? He's the one carrying the heaviest loads. We cannot afford a workhorse, so he makes a fine stand-in. Donkeys are content with very little, and we wouldn't be able to feed a big eater anyway. Is it not too hard for him? The donkey's used to it. Don't worry, eh? As she looked up, the young Moor noticed that there was an empty space between the barn's door and the straw roof. She pointed it out with an interrogative face. I always wondered that too. Why is there a gap up there? That's the granary, of course. It's where we store hay to feed the animals all year, except when the weather is nice, since we can directly make them graze. So that is the hay loft. But why is it empty? Well, we're precisely in haymaking season as we speak. We've exhausted all the reserves we had left, and we'll soon be able to fill the granary again. I see. Haymaking season? Kiona had naturally learned this word during her lessons with her private tutor, but she had never had the chance to see it done in practice. Assuredly, farm life had a lot in store for her. Fleur, who was getting dangerously closer, hands on her hips, dispelled her torpor with her voice. Don't tell me you're sleeping already. Of course not. Good. The stable is clean, so we can now drive the animals to pasture. Haguet? What? Huguet will likely take care of sweeping the pen in our absence. Is that her dad or her mom? Can't remember. I'm really gonna need your help this time. What do I need to do? It's simple. You're gonna take a big stick like me, and we'll both see to a group of animals. Stay alert and don't hesitate to get them back in line if they're straying from the path. A bit nervous, the princess mimicked her comrade and they left the farm behind their flock. Oh, I would not be good at this. While they were passing the shack, Kiona realized that Anselm is a dad, and Huguet's property was surrounded by a hedge of twigs and thorns. She pointed it out with her chin. Et is how old female names used to end. Oh, interesting. That's good to know. Is this to prevent animals from fleeing? That's one of its uses, indeed. But there are many others. Really? Such as? Well, the barrier also prevents the animals from trampling on our crops, and it makes it harder to steal them. Princess opened her eyes with horror. Steal them? Perfidious persons dared to steal your cattle. Unfortunately, yeah, it can happen. That remark made Kiona pensive, but she soon had to get rid of those thoughts and focus on the task at hand. Kiona, you sheltered girl. Perfidious people. The two maidens rapidly reached the pasture, while the animals were grazing. Fleur approached her. There you go. Now we just need to wait and keep an eye on the cattle. It's not the most enthralling thing in the world, but at least we can rest. Are you hungry? Princess's stomach was indeed growling for several minutes, so she immediately acquiesced. I'm gonna pick up our meal. Absolutely don't move and watch the animals. Fiona was scared stiff of failing once again, but Fleur came back almost immediately to her great relief. Oh, thank goodness. Oh, I was worried there would be an incident. They then sat in the grass, somewhere high on the hill, so they could keep monitoring the flock. The farmer took out a round and soft loaf from her basket, split it in two, and began cutting some cheese with a knife. Cheese again! I would love some cheese and bread. I'm gonna say it tastes good. I like the farming life. I think we're doing great. Fleur blinked. Cheese? What's important is not for it to be good, but to fill you up so you can hold on for the rest of the day. I was simply trying to compliment you. The girl's cheeks turned pale pink. I appreciate the intent, it's just not the quality sort. Delicious meals that's not nourishing is not worth much when you're active from dawn to dusk. Fleur suddenly appeared lost in thought. After a short break, she pointed her finger at the princess and claimed, You're not like the others, you know. A normal name like Kiona doesn't suit you. From now on, I'll call you Donkey Skin. What? I suppose that my garb is what looks strange to you. It's true, that's not the only reason. You also have your head in the clouds, and you discover everything like it's the first time you're setting foot on Earth. No doubt you're, in reality, the emissary of a faraway magical country, the Donkey Kingdom. The Donkey Kingdom? I don't see any other explanation to such naivete. I can make you believe anything, you know. You have to protect yourself from ill-intentioned people, Donkey Skin. Fiona could not help pouting. I know that I ask a lot of questions, but still, I am not as easy to fool as you believe, Fleur. In the Donkey Kingdom, surely, but in ours, it's another story entirely. Lucky for you, I'm a good soul. I will guide you until you can understand our customs. I mean, this is fitting for a 14-year-old, I guess. The farmer had such a wide smile that the princess did not have the heart to argue. No matter how strong-minded Fleur seemed, she was still a very young girl and definitely had a heart in the right place. Yeah. In a way, Kiona found her adorable. Was that how it felt to have a little sister? Stop. I would not have minded having one like Fleur, if only she did not have an answer for everything. Hours flew by and they finally had to drive the cattle back to the farm. On the way back, the small group passed near a hut, which aroused the princess's curiosity. What is the purpose of the little cabin I see over there? Is this where you store your tools? Fleur, who was quenching her thirst with a flask, immediately spat out her mouthful of wine. Are you serious? Kiona's face darkened at once. Did I happen to ask another annoying question? I will never risk learning anything if you are constantly making fun of me. I had to figure out that you were ignorant of many things, but this just boggles my mind. That's not a tool shed, but Lala? Oh my god. A latrine. Do I really have to say it? Fleur blushed again and gestured wildly as she was fixing several explanations at the same time, which only made her comrade more confused. I'm not quite sure I grasp the issue here. The young farmer girl took a deep breath before reeling off in one go. It's where you go when you need to relieve a certain basic need. There's just a deep hole with a pile of wood chips to prevent the smell from spreading. The latrines. Understanding what it was all about, the princess blushed in turn. How do they wait? But when they go number 2, do they do that in the latrine, or is that only for peeing? Where do they do number 2? Is it just like in the woods? Just go to the woods and poop. She only pronounced one syllable to avoid looking at Fleur in the eye, embarrassed. Oh. Everything is in there? Do they clean it out, or do they keep it in there? I'm really worried here, you know. Also, has Kiona not had to go at all since she fled the castle? It's been like an entire day at least. If Donkey Skin has never seen latrines in her life, she must really know very little about our world. Are you sure the Donkey Kingdom doesn't come from the sky? Well, absolutely sure. It is just very different over there. Yeah, I'm sure she's used to chamber pots and castle-y stuff. But has she not had to go since she fled the castle? Unless she went in the woods, which is what I would think. All the more reason to remedy to that. Once the animals are in the pen, you're gonna come with me. We need to go over all the basics together. Oh boy. No sooner said than done. Fleur dragged Kiona away from an impromptu tour of the farm, regularly halting to explain in detail the interest of every area and every tool. We have 3 parcels that we cultivate differently every year to avoid impoverishing the soil. I know that, they rotate it. Could it be the 3-field crop rotation system I've sometimes heard about? I learned about that. I'm not aware of its name. The fact remains it's necessary to vary crops. This parcel here is used as a grain field. We grow rye and a bit of wheat to make bread. That one there is used as a field of vegetables. We grow chickpeas and a few carrots to make porridge. It's interesting because, like, Harvest Moon games are so focused on farming. However, they never use the soil having a certain level of like quality and nutrition in them as a mechanic. But Rune Factory, which is the sister game of Harvest Moon, has always used the soil quality system. And that one is more focused on fighting and exploring than it is farming. So I remember having to like rotate crops in Rune Factory, but never in Harvest Moon. Anyway, that's my fun fact of the day for Harvest Moon games. The last field is sorry, I'm getting so I'm getting so clogged up, and once again, it is entirely only for visual novels and not for anything else. I do not have a cold. Get rotated parcel. In other words, we let the soil rest. It's used as pasture land for the animals. Whoops, my mic just dropped. We also have an apple tree over there that allows us to make apple wine. That's a lot of big apples. How organized you are. We have to be. Farms must complete a multitude of small tasks to be able to survive. As a result, you have to learn a little bit of everything. How to repair tools, how to clean the house, how to grow plants, how to breed animals, how to sell products at the market, and how to build up. All at the same time? I thought that each domain was entrusted a different artisan. Craftspersons usually gather in usually gather in town to serve the local lord, and merchants in the countryside you can only count on yourself. Oh, it's evening. Realizing the sun was getting rather low in the sky, Fleur turned toward her comrade. It's already quite late in the afternoon. We don't have time to do any big tasks before sunset. Let's keep them another day and go to the shack to prepare a meal. Tired by her long stroll, Kiona did not need much persuading. I'm sorry, this life just seems so lovely. Kiona, I think we should just stay here. I think this is a lovely little life to live. The 2 young women then came across Huguet, who had made sure to milk the goat a little while ago. By mutual agreement, they all decided to make some cheese. I haven't seen you all day. What were you doing, Mother? I made some bread, cleaned the pan, and then spun a few baskets so I could sell them at the market. My mother's really skilled in spinning baskets. It allows us to collect a little money. Incidentally, I stayed there quite a while, but I was able to buy wax and fat thanks to my sales. It's true we exhausted our last candle not long ago. That's great news. You want to quit being a princess? Hey, being a princess is clearly not filled with great things when your dad can just get married to you. I mean, I guess there is also the Lord, and we do need to, like, get some protection so that we can get, Nahima to come back. But I am so selfish. I'd just be like, let's just live on the farm. Let's just live our life on the farm, and then we'll contact Nahima. I mean, I would have just let Nahima meet up with us in the first place, so I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I would have lived my life on the farm and then met up with Nahima, and then we would have had a lovely time together. While the two farmers were beginning to make cheese under the wonderstruck eyes of the princess, who did not miss a thing, Anselm joined them, a tad grouchy. How was your day, father? Awful. I couldn't catch a single one. I smashed my fishing rod on top of that. I'm gonna repair it at once. No, not the fishing rod. See? Okay. A slight tangent, but this is my issue with Story of Seasons. My farm is simply much too time consuming, and I want to go around and like talk to all the townspeople, but I don't have time. I don't have time to do that because I'm so busy farming and taking care of my animals and like going and getting honey and stuff and harvesting and doing all of that I don't have time to actually do other things, and I never have time to fish. This is why farms have multiple people. Someone to do the fishing, which would be me, and then someone to do everything else. Imagine that, but also more steps. Oh, IRL, I would never, ever, ever work on a farm. I could not do that. I know how like, I do not have the work ethic for that. And I do not have the consistency to get up at 4 a.m. every day to do that. I keep getting videos on Instagram, though, about this lady who has, like, the cutest little farm. She's got, like, little houses for each of the animals. Like, she separates all the goats and all of the chickens and everything into, like, their little groups of friends. And then she labels the doors, and then she'll just say, let's get ready to rumble! And they all go back inside when a day's over. It's so cute. Anyway. Certainly, given my luck with fish, doing something else will do me a world of good. I feel you. I think I would fail waking up on time for the farm life. That's the critical bit. I think I would just not be able to get up at 4 a.m. every day. Like, I would be able to get up. I just wouldn't want to get up and do things, you know? I'd just be like, I'll just sit in bed for a bit. And my animals would just be like crying outside. My animals would just be so sad. Like, let me be free. Get out. Even if I'm slightly fed up with being reduced to boring tasks. You well know that you have to wait for your wound to heal, Father. I know. Don't worry about me, Fleur. I assure you I'm very careful. Noticing that an amazed Kiona was still staring at her, the little farmer chuckled, moved. The animals would go on strike, exactly. They'd report us to animal welfare. Mother and I can teach you how to make cheese if you want. Ooh, I've seen so many videos on making cheese, like, from the Middle Ages. Really? Oh, she's picking up the accent, oh no. It's not that complicated, you'll see. Princess sees the young girl's wet hand, eyes sparkling with excitement. Oh, thank you. Thank you 1,000 times. I cannot wait to cook. The more you learn about middle-aged farming and the things they'd have to do, the more exhausting it seems. You really have to have been built for that life, as in, like, grown up and everything. The other thing that gets me is, like, they don't drink water, and they don't, like, you know, they always drink beer and wine, and I'm like, how do you even get through the day? How are they not, like, so drunk every day? I know it's all watered down, but still. Let me go. I'm gonna make a real mess here. Kiona detached her hands from Fleur, but it was already too late. She had smeared herself with milk and cream. Cuquette and her daughter could not help but bursting out laughing. You're a hopeless donkey skin. Displeased to end up a laughingstock once again, the princess stopped away to sulk. For a moment, Fleur would have sworn that the ears from her skin had lowered like a dog's. It was soon time for dinner, and all the farmers gathered around the table to enjoy their humble meal, chickpea gruel and some cereal skillets. Worn out by her long day, Kiona ate up her portion without complaint and went to bed without further delay. I think that's also the other thing. You're probably so hungry and tired after every day of work that I'm sure every meal is delicious. I remember watching like Anne with an E, and every time they had like a meal bit in the episodes, it would always look so delicious, but also it must feel so delicious when they always have to do a full day of like farm work. And I think that's the one thing. I think because I don't do any physical labor in my job, it's all just like running around outside. I just run around. One of the kids told me this week, he was like, "Do you like your job?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do. I actually quite love it." And he was like, "You must do, because you're always outside." And I was like, "Yeah, I just like run around." I was like, that's such a weird way to describe it. Like I'm like an animal that needs zoomies. But yeah, I don't do like physical labor, so I never like come home really, really tired and hungry. They have to prepare about getting and making candles, so they'll have no lights. That's another thing. Peasants didn't get to live that long compared to our current lifespans. Their life was just tough. Oh, that's true. That's true. They probably don't have to worry about it for too long. Despite the challenge posed by her excursion in the countryside, she was burning on the inside to discover new experiences. The next morning, Fleur had once again to shake awake the princess, who was sleeping soundly. Don't tell me you're gonna make a scene every single day. But I'm still sleepy. Do residents of the Donkey Kingdom live in reverse, up during the night like owls? It would explain a whole lot. For the love of God, don't go back to sleep already. What on earth have I done to pick up such a sleepyhead? The young farmer eventually managed to drag Kiona out of her bedding, but it was not without a fight. Sore and in a daze, the heiress half-heartedly engaged in the morning ritual, under the impatient eye of her comrade. Good. Now that you're finally awake, we can start on the thorough house cleaning. Help me collect all the pieces of cloth. With an energetic grip, the teenager was unhooking all the linen in the shack, while the princess was shyly piling them up in a huge basket. Perfect. Follow me. We're gonna pick up some branches to use them as a makeshift broom. You do not have any? More precisely, we don't have a broom anymore. And contrary to what Donkey Kingdom folks do, we cannot call some fairy or some imp to get rid of the dirt for us. Once the bronzes were selected, the young women used them to dust the shack's ground. Kiona did not fail to complain nonetheless. My back is hurting. Those branches are too short and force me to bend down. We're almost done. One last push, Donkey Skin. Very well, very well. Oh, this is horrible. Having to like crouch down to clean. Fleur slipped away and came back with some herbs as a young Moor was finishing sweeping. To her biggest surprise, the farmer started to throw a few handfuls throughout the house. What are you doing? Is this a pagan rite? No, I'm using bug-repelling plants to fill the room with their scent. This spares you from waking up with swarming insects in your hair, if you see what I mean. Our cat already takes care of the mess. We have a cat? Kiona looks disgusted as she was imagining the display and swore to memorize the herbs in question, so she would never be confronted with those insects. And now? Come outside. We're gonna get ash from the fireplace and scrub the laundry with it. The farm cat. Have you heard of the cat that sits outside 10 Downing Street? Apparently they're retired now, but what was the name? Larry the cat that they picked just to chase away mice in 10 Downing Street because they had a huge mice problem, and the cat actually did none of that work. Larry the cat actually hates chasing mice and does not do their job. Yeah, they replaced it with another cat, I think. There was always a Larry the cat. I don't think they're called Larry the cat, though. I remember one of the officials took the original cat, and there were rumors that their wife hated the cat and killed the cat, so they had to do a whole publicity post to let everyone know that no, the original cat is not dead, and they're happily alive in the house. They had to take pictures of like newspaper articles with the cat on top of them to like make sure that the date and everything was accurate, so that people knew that no, the cat's still alive on current time. Don't worry. But yeah, I thought that was really funny. And like the post that came out, every time an official tried to pet the cat and the cat was like, no. Like whenever the cat was like, I don't like you, it was like, ooh, what does that mean? What does that mean about this person? Oh, this is extremely exhausting. And yet, we have just started. Afterwards, we will have to rinse and wring them. And you do this kind of thing every day? I wash the laundry pretty regularly. I also do house cleaning with my mother. You know that a woman's ability to keep her abode clean is well appreciated quality, right? If you don't want other farmers to make fun of you, you better try your hardest. Once the washing was scoured, Fleur took hold of wooden paddles and the two girls carried the basket together. After traveling a certain distance, they reached a little stream not far from the farm. The weather is quite good, perfect for us. What is the purpose of these things? You'll see. Much to Kiona's surprise, the farmer formed a pile with the soaked laundry, grabbing a paddle and hit it with all her might, splashing water all around her. But why are you hitting the clothes? To wash them, of course. Alright, take one and come help me. Puzzled at first, it did not take long for the young Moor to play along and cheerfully strike this innocent pile of clothing. Being able to let off steam made the chore way more fun than she had expected. We're getting all the real processes here. I wasn't expecting the ashes for cleaning to come in. Me neither. I remember that coming up in, I think it was Pillars of the Earth. Did not elude Fleur, who thought it right to splash water in her direction. Fiona would normally have been offended, but her good mood had made her respond in kind. The serious activity quickly turned into a battle, each one trying her best to spray the other until they both became breathless. Thus, they joyfully brought the laundry back to the farm and sat down to eat a well-deserved meal, identical to the one they had the day before. I did not think laundry could be so backbreaking. All chores are wearying, you know. Besides, we only wash all our clothes every 2 months. Even so, that is still a lot for a single person. Do you not receive a little help from time to time? It does happen, but we rarely have the resources to pay other farmers. We cannot make them work for us without compensation. They too have a farm to tend to, after all. I see. Your family would rather keep their distance. To be honest, it's quite the opposite. I'm the one who usually gets hired elsewhere during the harvest season. Not much, but it allows me to earn a bit of money. How courageous of you! Fleur gazed at the sky with a wistful look. It has nothing to do with bravery. I'm just trying to follow my sister's example. She has a sister. Back in the day, she was one— oh right, didn't she say that her siblings died? She was one helping the other farmers during harvest, while my brother and I stayed with our parents. When she died, I sought to pick up the torch. But I'll certainly not be able to do it this year. Why is that? Because your dad's injured? In the past, we tended to farm all together, and we were efficient enough to expand the parcels to raise more animals. However, the number of people fit to work kept decreasing over the years. Admittedly, it means that we have less mouths to feed, but inevitably less hands to help too. Do you regret those days? I'd be lying if I said otherwise. I left to play with my little brother Polin, run in the tall grass, build tree houses. Most had been fragile and would eat very little. One exceptionally stark winter, we lost part of our stock because of a fire, and we had to endure hunger, the one that doesn't go away. He could not cope. Famine carried him off. No! I tried to convince myself that there was nothing I could do, but it still gave me a shock. And then life resumed its course. until my big sister Elvide contracted the smallpox. Variola? My god, I think I've heard of it. Disease that kills 1 out of 3 people, according to the village's healer. Oops. Contagious with that. To avoid every last one of us becoming infected, we had to entrust her to the church for some time, in the hope that she would get better. When I think back now, we must have believed that we were abandoning her. Yet I frequently went to the nuns to inquire about her. Unfortunately, her conditions never improved. That is dreadful. In truth, it is probably better that way. Those who manage to escape smallpox are often disfigured. I don't know if Elvide would have been able to cope with a pockmarked face for the rest of her life. At least, she is not suffering anymore. Fleur shook her head to dry the tears gathering at the corners of her eyes. What am I saying? This is no time to feel sorry for myself. All that I wanted to say was that they died one after the other. When Anselme was injured, I got really scared. But in the end, he's alright. It could have been worse. I just hope that he'll recover. It is difficult to tend the farm with only the 2 of us working. Fiona felt infinitely sad for the little farmer. Despite only knowing Fleur since only very recently, it was breaking her heart to see such a young child carry all the weight of a family on her frail shoulders. He wanted to say something, find the right words to comfort her, but none came out. So she clumsily put one hand on Fleur's red head and stroked her hair. Fleur refused to look into her eyes, probably out of reserve, but she did not reject her. After sniffing a bit, the farmer stood up and declared with a voice as reassuring as possible. Well, anyway, we still have to wring that laundry. Will you please help me, Donkey Skin? Smiling, Fiona took the hand Fleur was holding out to her. Of course. In order to drain away the water that soaked the clothings, the 2 girls wrapped them around a wooden pole before tugging with all their strength. Once the wringing was done, they hung the sheets on the grass so they could dry in the sun. The sun's already setting, though! Are you sure they are not going to fly away, Fleur? There isn't enough wind for that today. However, we shouldn't go too far. Thieves, wild boars. I'm gonna say thieves. Exactly. We've been robbed of a sheep before, and cloth is very precious, so we cannot afford to lose another one. What a heinous act! Those rascals deserve to be severely punished. Not the rascals again. Fleur seemed taken aback. That's gone a bit too far. I know that executions are more and more common, but I find that disproportionate to be hung high. A little while ago, we would have simply cut the thief's ear. Isn't that enough? Don't tell me you're one of those bloodthirsty people, Donkey Skin. No, that is not the case. I was unaware that thieves were sometimes put to death. There has never been a hanging where I come from. Well, that you are aware of. The farmer frowned bitterly. What a clever way out. You're hiding behind ignorance whenever it's most convenient to you, You could have simply taken responsibility for your opinions. I swear to you that I am telling the truth. Let's say no more. This is a topic I'd rather avoid. Fleur got back on her feet and stretched out boisterously. Well, I'm gonna leave you to it for a short time. I'd like to pick some fruits in the forest while it's still daytime. Could you wait for me? Fiona, who was drained and aching, did not need much persuading. She had bad memories of her escape from the castle and did not want to stumble in the mud again, or even prick herself with nettles. Nahima! What are you doing in the sky? As she was contemplating Fleur's back, gradually walked away. Wait, that was not the right. As she was contemplating Fleur's back, gradually walk away, she abruptly found herself thinking about Nahima. The young farmer acted a bit like her in the way she reprimanded and teased her. Since she only ever had a trusted relationship with her lady-in-waiting, the princess pondered, is it that easy to make friends with someone? Simba! Simba! I wonder what Nahima is doing right now. The sky was unable to answer. Oh. No Simba moment. R.I.P. The following morning, Kiona was dragged out of her bedding as unceremoniously as in previous days. I know, I feel like whenever we have a person in the sky moment, we're all thinking it. Get up, donkey skin. Whoa, it looks really dark. Yeah. Today is a Lord's Day. We must attend Mass together. You won't miss that, would you? Despite her having her mind stray at the edge of sleep, the maiden arose instantly. It was crucial for a good Christian girl to fulfill their obligations. The new life she was leading had made her forget this fundamental practice. It was all it took to urge her to get ready. After a few minutes, the family finally set off. Indeed, the closest church was located beyond the hills, a solid hour of walk from the farm. Whoa. I almost cut that from the game, but a friend told me it was cute and funny, so I eventually kept it. the in the sky. I think it's cute. I think it's a nice little indication that we're still really worried about Nahima and still about her. Even with like having a giant face in the sky. No, I think it's always best to keep that kind of stuff in, even if it might feel a little silly. Once they arrived at their destination, Kiona was genuinely impressed by the number of farmers who had made the trip. I think sometimes we all need a touch of whimsy, you know? She discreetly whispered in Fleur's ear. Is it always like that? Proud, you mean? Absolutely. The weekly mass is a prerequisite. Oh, we have a church. Beautiful. We took off the donkey head! Accustomed to Christian rites and childhood, the princess had no problem following the sequence of chants. Yet she was not entirely comfortable due to all the insistent looks around her. Her skin aroused curiosity and disgust among those who noticed it. This is what I mean, Kiona. Like, you're gonna just attract more attention. She is therefore relieved that she left the church accompanied by Anselm and Huguet. Oh, there's no snoozes. Interesting. Don't worry, I'm aware. Where did Fleur go? He may have made a detour to the graveyard. I know she likes to meditate there. That's unfortunate. Weather seems to be taking a turn for the worse. We should not linger if we want to avoid the rain. Oh, I was wondering why it was so dark. I thought maybe they were just there really early. I want to go look for her, to be honest. Do not worry. I will look for her at once. I was gonna save, but I clicked the wrong button, so I clicked on it. It's fine. Thank you, Donkey Skin. That's very nice of you. Kiona walked around the church at a determined pace and eventually caught sight of the young farmer, crouching before a tombstone. She slowly approached, but stopped at the last moment. Should she disturb her friend during her meditation? Yes? Oh, sorry for interrupting your prayer, but your parents are looking for you. It would appear that a storm is brewing, and they would like us to leave as soon as possible. I'm almost done. The princess took a look at the names engraved in the stone. She did not need to decipher them to understand who had been buried here. Fleur suddenly broke the silence. That is my brother and sister's grave, as you must have guessed. How strange. Even though I am a believer, I cannot accept that God would leave us in solitude. What do you mean? If God exists, why does He not give us a sign? I don't ask for much. I know I'll never see them again, but if I could at least be rest assured that they are indeed in heaven, that they are happy where they are. I do not have an answer. Perhaps we are simply unable to grasp what God is trying to accomplish. and he knows it all too well. You mean that he thinks it's not worth explaining it to us? Probably. That is unfair. I'm willing to understand, if only he could answer my prayers. Sometimes I'm not sure I believe in him anymore. Really? I cannot accept that innocent people are suffering and dying while scoundrels are growing richer and living lavishly. The church says that in heaven the reverse happens. The poor partake of the table of the Lord. I would simply like to be sure of it. Once again, Fiona did not know how to answer. The young girl could not accept the death of her siblings, nor fate's sentence. How could she have judged her for that? She who had fled to escape her own fate. The two maidens walked back to Anselm and Huguet, who were waiting for them near the Calvary. Calvary? I'm ready. Let's go. Unfortunately, Anselm's predictions came true as the sky, until then an azure blue, I think the clouds were already coming in, didn't take long to get covered with clouds. And the heavens opened. The little group had to hurry and barricade themselves in the farm. I was gonna say, I wonder why the church is like one of those little chapels and not a big church, but then I realized they're obviously not in a town, they're in the countryside, and the big cathedrals are all at the center of towns and cities, I mean. They're all at the center of cities. Soaked to the bones, they hung their clothes near the fire and sat down at the table. Once they ate their gruel, they had to bow to the evidence. The storm was going to last the whole day, forcing them to stay cooped up inside. Oh my god, it's just like in Harvest Moon. In the end, it's not a bad thing, since it's forbidden to work on Sundays. We just hope the sun will come back tomorrow. What do you usually do when the weather is inclement? We play dice, we tell stories, we play some music. Nothing fancy. There will be no story today. My back is killing me. I absolutely need to lie down. Oh no, that's what I love the most. Wait, Fiona has stories. I enjoy the tale from last time so much. The one with the lumberjack and the blood sausage. I'd love to have heard more stories as funny as that one. Ooh, is that like... Wait, let's check the archives. Donkey Skin 3! To get the princess out of the sticky situation, her godmother advises her to wear the donkey skin. Ah, so this time it was the godmother that advised us. So she would not be recognized and run away as far as she can. Before leaving, she gives her a little box so she can take all of her clothes. So interesting. So the box of holding was like a thing in the original story. I thought that was just something here. The object turns out to be quite extraordinary, as it follows its mistress underground and only reveals itself by the wave of a magic wand. That is such a good little thing to take with us. The one that the fairy graciously entrusts to her protege. The princess complies, and the disguise works so well that she repels everyone who crosses her path because of her horribly filthy appearance. It is only after a long journey that she finally reaches a farm where she is hired as a scullery maid. Unfortunately, her new life proves to be harsh as she is permanently brutalized and laughed at by the other farmers. What? She takes refuge in her daydreams in order to hold on until the arrival of a Prince Charming. What? In the prose version, the woman farmer feels sorry for her and takes her under protection. Oh no. No, I didn't come up with a bottomless chest. Most of the crazy things are from the fairy tales. That's wild. I really thought that was just something to make it easier to have the inventory system. But no, that wasn't the original story. That's so funny. That's so sad. What the heck? Permanently brutalized. The Ridiculous Wishes. This is the one that she was talking about. 1693, another of Charles Perrault's first fairy tales. Using a humorous approach, it is also an acerbic satire of the masses and their simple-mindedness. A lumberjack, unhappy about his state of poverty, complains aloud about the cruelty of fate when a magical apparition visits him and promises to grant 3 of his wishes. Overjoyed, he returns home and relates his adventure to his wife, who suggests he take some time to think about it. But the man is so hungry, he instinctively wishes to be able to eat some blood sausage. Oh no, of course, it's a classic, like 3 wishes and then bumbling them through, as you'd get in every, like, sitcom and also in Bratz Genie Magic. Which I think was definitely based on this story. The wife, upon seeing the food come into existence, the wife gets quite rightly worked up and laments the waste. Annoyed, the lumberjack then wishes, out of anger, that the blood sausage dangle under her nose. The bad deed is obviously immediate, and the woman bursts into tears because she would rather stay a farmer than become rich with a blood sausage in place of her nose! Thus, the last wish is used to restore her normal state. R.I.P. Donkey Skin is supposed to be similar to Cinderella. She got bullied by someone. Oh. He has to get bullied by someone. Well, we seem to be doing quite well so far. It seems like we were getting bullied by the people in the church. Realizing Fleur's disappointment, Kiona tried to put on a smile back into her face and offered to replace Huguette. At first, the young girl did not take her very seriously. Are you going to tell me how people live in the Donkey Kingdom? Better than that. The princess then decided to narrate marvelous tales she had learned and thus knew by heart. Legends full of valiant knights, beautiful princesses, terrifying sorceresses, mythical monsters, deadly trials, and artifacts with outrageous powers. Little by little, Fleur became captivated by Kiona's talent as a storyteller and begged for even more stories. You know so many things, Donkey Skin. Are you sure you don't come from an enchanted kingdom? Kiona chuckled, amused. I know you would like that very much, but I am no sorceress. You could be a cursed princess in exile. We are! I am only Donkey Skin. I wish I could live all these adventures, but I'll never be a princess. Why not? A pauperess like me doesn't have the makings of a true lady. You know, anyone can become a princess as long as they possess the necessary attributes. If you're wise, good, and virtuous, then you already have the heart of a princess. Really? Don't lie to her. Oh, unless she's going with the little princess idea of what a princess is. Fleur's eyes were sparkling with excitement. Like a little girl who had been promised a toy. I didn't want the poor people to be mindless bullies or convenient sidekicks, so you get a detailed explanation of medieval farm life instead, which I much prefer. I have a bone to pick with the general bully trope in a story to make the main character seem really sad and sympathetic and blah blah blah, because I already sympathize with Kiona, right? So if I just had like this new family like treating her like shit and just making her seem miserable, it would have just been exhausting, because I think she's already been through enough. Not to say that like any of that isn't like, you know, a bad thing to add, but I think like making a character horrendous, make one character seem better, is a very tired trope. And you give Coco a sibling dynamic, which there it's true. It's true. You introduce a sibling character or a surrogate sibling, and I'm already in. I literally don't care about any ending right now. I just need this little family to do so well. I need specifically Fleur to flourish. To flourish, if you will. I need her to do so well. I believe she's a little princess. I believe. And now I'm worried. Now I'm worried that we have a new family to care about. And things don't usually go well for middle-aged families. Families in the Middle Ages. Middle-aged families just makes me think, oh, they're all 40. Fiona took unabashed pride in explaining her these kinds of things, for she held her status in high regard. In her eyes, the princess had to follow a certain moral code that was, in the end, equally important as money itself. She took great pleasure in sharing it. However, as princessy as she was, the young Moor was not yet finished with farm work. Ruh-roh. Indeed, it was haymaking season, and the family had yet to reap the meadows. Fleur felt that they had to make good use of Kiona's presence, that her protege was finally ready to tackle the noble task. Thus, the two maidens headed for the fallow parcel the next day with a scythe. This is making me want to play more Grand Bazaar. Guys, this is really bad. It's making me want to play more Harvest Moon. An activity which proved to be quite hard. Careful! Watch where you're going! The poor princess was gesticulating wildly with her scythe in hopes of cutting the grass, but her movements were so clumsy it made her presence more dangerous than useful. If you're not more careful, you're gonna injure yourself, Donkey Skin, or me for that matter. I do not want to be decapitated because of an impulsive swing. Sorry, Fleur, but I'm really doing the best I can. You're aiming too high. Your scythe should be at ground level in order to cut the grass properly. Okay. The farmer rolled her eyes upon seeing her comrade still struggling. Put some effort into it. This is just the beginning, Donkey Skin. Heaven help me. Reap? What? Reaping begins? What does that mean? What? Ah! Oh no. Oh shit. Oh no, there's more! Ah, I have to click it twice! What the heck? Oh no. I didn't do enough and now we're gonna stop. Well done, you cut 86 blades of grass. What? Surprise minigame. Despite her lack of experience, Kiona tried her hardest and the two girls eventually managed to reap their parcel after several hours. How dare you! No sooner had the last bit been cut that Fleur threw her comrade a pitchfork. Come on, we have to spread the grass so it can dry thoroughly. Is that really necessary? Of course, it wouldn't be hay otherwise. Besides, it's dangerous to store grass that's still damp. It could rot and catch fire. Really? I was not joking when I said it was an important step. Woes of a farmer help with farm work. It took Fleur and Kiona 2 solid days to reap the entire field, gather haystacks, and make them dry under a scorching sun. But when they resorted to the donkey's help to pull pallets of the precious fodder and store it in the granary, the princess was very proud of the work accomplished. She felt she had grown. Great job! Thanks to our labor, we have enough hay to feed the cattle during winter. Fiona patted the old donkey, exhausted but happy. Oh, how long have we been here? However, Fleur had planned a new wearing activity for the next day, preparing the sheep to be shorn. To that end, they had to lead a flock to the stream, force the animals to dip in the shallow water one by one, then rub their fleece to get rid of any impurity. This excursion had the merit of being refreshing. Those sheep are completely illogical, Fleur. They resist as if they are afraid of the water, yet once they are in it, they seem to enjoy the bathing. Don't try to understand it, eh? As long as they don't try to kick you with their hooves. Brandishing the sheep. Once they had washed all the sheep like that, the two girls left them to dry for the night and only began shearing proper the day after. I'm gonna need you, Donkey Skin. I need to cut the wool with those shears, but I absolutely mustn't hurt the sheep. You will have to hold it as long as possible while I'm shearing it, alright? But they are far too heavy for me. Block it with your arm. Everything's gonna be alright. Somehow, the princess managed to hold the sheep back with her comrade, while the comrade was coarsely cutting their wool. Once it was done, Huguette brought them some tar she had heated so that they could bandage the sheep's wounds. It was after all difficult not to scrape them with shears at sharp. Oh, the poor sheep. Fiona's progress was quite satisfying, which led Fleur to entrust her with more responsibilities. Thus, she was one day tasked with driving the animals to pasture on her own, while the farmers would be busy in the fields. I can't remember, was the bottom of her dress always that tattered, or has it gotten that way? The princess did not hide her nervousness after living in the same house for some time. She did not want to disappoint them. This was a trial that she was determined to prove her worth. So, she guided her flock with the utmost care, never letting it out of her sight. Yet, it was impossible to maintain constant vigilance. I wonder if the guy that's been told this story is just like, what does any of this farm life have to do with me? They're like, how is this relevant to my story? And Liz is just like, shut up. I want my farm stories. I want to watch my farm stories. Helped by fatigue, she let her attention slip at the last moment, when she was opening the pen to bring the geese back. In a few seconds, oh no! One of the fowl changed its mind and abruptly turned around. In a swift wing beat, it hopped a few meters behind Kiona. Oh no! Distraught, the princess hurried to close the pen to avoid a second breakout. She chased after the bird, but it was already moving farther and farther away towards the forest. She had to face reality. It would be impossible to capture the goose without an accomplice. Up! Go back. And Fleur had warned her against the fowl's craftiness. Fiona did not know what to do anymore. She was too ashamed to confess she had failed due to her carelessness, but she could not hide the truth from the farmers for too long. Panicked, she dashed through the fields and shouted, "Fleur, where are you? Fleur!" The young farmer did not take long hearing her cries and immediately suspected her protege had made a blunder. "What is it, Donkey Skin?" "Fleur, this is terrible. I was bringing the geese back to their pen when one of them seized the opportunity to escape." "For crying out loud, Scatterbrain, which way did it go?" "It is headed for the woods." "Great. That's all I needed." No. Livid, Fleur dropped what she was doing and rushed in pursuit of the prankster. The princess notices the two farmers disapprovingly glaring at her and sought forgiveness by taking the young girl's place. A few minutes later, Fleur showed up. She had managed to retrieve the goose at the cost of great effort, but did not seem especially happy. She was still shooting dirty looks as she placed herself in front of Kiona with an accusing posture. "I believed in you. I entrusted you with a mission because I thought you'd be able to fulfill it, and you let an animal escape. I am very sorry." The young farmer's tone became ice cold, and she only reprimanded more harshly. "Being sorry doesn't cut it. You must be more careful, or our pittance goes out the window. A single mistake can cost us our lives. Are you aware of that?" Tears were forming in Kiona's eyes as her voice cracked. Contradictory emotions swirled in her head, reducing what was left of her goodwill to ashes. "I am genuinely sorry. I really wanted to do my best." A hiccup stopped her in mid-sentence, and the princess flopped in the grass in tears. Realizing she had gone too far, Fleur's expression changed. She bent down and dried Kiona's tears, saddened. "Don't cry, Donkey Skin. It's okay. Everything went back to normal in the end." "But I still failed." "That's how you learn. Your mistakes make you stronger." "That is not true." The young farmer dragged her comrade away, and the two girls sat down on a hill, facing the sunset. "I didn't think you'd take it so badly." "It is just that I really wanted to be useful to you. Even if I have not known you for a long time, I would like to help." "Why is that? We're only strangers after all." "It could be that I am a little bit envious." Surprised, Fleur pressed for more details. "I don't understand." "Despite hardships, I do see that you always rely on each other, that you can trust each other. I would have loved to belong into a family like yours." "Are you an orphan?" "Not quite. My mother is dead, and my father has gone crazy." "Crazy? What do you mean?" "He has never been able to come to terms with my mother's death and has refused to marry again. After years of neglect, he came to me to ask for my hand." Fleur stopped for an instant and opened her eyes wide, astounded. "For real?" "I would have preferred to lie, That is why I fled, in the hopes of starting a new life. I didn't think you'd have such a complicated history. But in any case, we're not going to abandon you, okay? Oh! Even if you're not the sharpest tool in the shed, I'm sure that we can make something of you. The princess replied with a sad smile, which broke little Fleur's heart. On the spur of the moment, she took the young Moor in her arms. Although Kiona had said too much, words had naturally poured in, and talking about it was just what she needed. The comrade seemed to perfectly understand her circumstances. He felt lighter, as if she had been freed from an enormous burden. As for her, the teenager could only sympathize. Donkey Skin's odd behavior finally found an explanation in her eyes. She had to be the daughter of a wealthy farmer or a wealthy merchant, who, because of his madness, had kept her ignorant of the working of the world all those years. Even if she envied her carefreeness, she genuinely admired the bravery Kiona had demonstrated in escaping from such a prison. That night, Fleur took it upon herself to talk to her parents so they would be more sympathetic to the princess. Oh. I was able to talk with Donkey Skin, and she has her reasons. I think we can forgive her. Are you sure, Fleur? The girl is quite harmless, but she is so clumsy. You won't be able to keep her if she doesn't learn to be more resourceful. She'll get better, I promise. Are you taking responsibility for her behavior? I don't know what she told you, but if you're convinced, we trust your judgment, Fleur. Still, that girl is the image of a noble stranded outside her palace. I thought so too, but from what she said, I'm now convinced otherwise. Really? She was locked up by her own father, who had become mad and escaped at the risk of her life. I don't think a noble would have the guts. I see. She remains a rather spoiled person, but I'm willing to be more understanding. If she has her circumstances, I will do the same. Same night, Fleur was looking at Kiona more kindly. The two girls had only been around each other for a short time, but at that very moment a bond was forged between them, like the vague feeling that they could mutually trust each other, the birth of a friendship. As the days passed, and Kiona was fitting into her adoptive family better and better. Since that night when she had confessed her misfortunes, little Fleur appeared a lot more protective toward her, and their friendship was all the more stronger. Anselm and Huguette had kept their promise too, and made sure to properly explain anything to the new recruit, guide her as best as they could. Even though the farmer's living conditions were always precarious, never had the princess felt so fulfilled. The very first time in her life, she felt that she belonged to a group, that she was surrounded by benevolent faces, and she was useful. I think that's the important thing, that she's taken back control. And even if the situation is far worse, it's kind of like when you live in a very difficult family, and even when they feed and take care of you, it can still be horrendous to live there. But when you leave and you're on your own and you're paying for everything you do, yes, it is so exhausting to like have to work to live. But and you can live in like a far worse house and a far worse like lifestyle, like your day-to-day lifestyle. But it feels significantly better, like the feeling of like not worrying about your safety and not and like fully being in control of your life. It could be such a nice feeling. Her integration in the community reached a new turning point as Midsummer's Eve drew near. It's a good analogy. It's just really reminded me of like that whole thing. Anyway, it would be very freeing. It is. I think because there is that kind of misconception. I think that like really really rich people don't suffer because they have lots of money, and it is true. Money does help a lot, but when you're in a very controlling environment, um, something that I learned in my workplace at least was that rich people, like everyone goes through, like anyone can go through like abuse, and rich people in particular often never get support for that. Same with like, anyone else, like lots of people don't get support for it. But there is this idea that they can get all the means to get support and help. And there's this idea that they're absolutely fine because they have access to like so many helplines and people. But actually, like a lot of people in rich families don't have access to that because there's going to be one person who has control over everything. That's usually the person who's causing the abuse. So the person in that family is even more restricted than anything else. And that kind of like push and pull factor, the pull factor of this person is keeping me alive and I would not be able to survive. I know that there was one family that we worked with who had escaped horrendous conditions, but they ended up going back because the child in the family was so used to this kind of lavish lifestyle that they couldn't deal with the fact that they were now living in like a refuge, and it was like too much for them. They had to go back, and it was, going back to a horrendous lifestyle, but that was just like what they were so used to, that kind of like being trapped. But just having like, not knowing any differently. And I fully think that if they did stay out longer, they probably would have been able to, embrace that kind of freedom, but it's really difficult. Anyway, I don't want to get into a tangent about that. We already did. It was a great summer festival during which all the farmers in the vicinity gathered for the evening. Naturally, Fleur's family was invited as well, as putting Kiona aside was out of the question. Putting Kiona aside was out of the question. Each invited farm was involved in the preparations. Therefore, one of the geese was slaughtered for the occasion. I hope it's one that ran away. It's like, Kiona's like, that one. I want that one to be used. And Huguet went to the site in order to help prepare the meal. Like, she's really vindictive against that particular goose. As she had never left the castle, the princess was especially excited to discover a typical peasant fare. She would not be disappointed. Oh. The night of Midsummer's Eve, a huge bonfire had been erected in the middle of a field. Kiona was dumbstruck upon discovering the sight of the reddish embers blown away to the jet-black vault. She enjoyed the feast, for she had not eaten meat for so long. She enjoyed the magical atmosphere, which adorned this moment even more. A group of farmers were playing lively music, while others were happily dancing around the fire. Laughter and singing filled the air. The young Moor felt so comfortable that she momentarily forgot her status. That night, she was not a princess anymore, only Kiona. When she was lost in thought, a girl turned to her and asked if she wished to join them and dance. As she had lost sight of Fleur since the beginning of the night, she considered there would be no harm in enjoying the festivity by herself. She accepted on impulse and let herself be led by the frenetic rhythm. Gradually, she dropped all hesitation and had so much fun that the youngest farmers began applauding her performance. Short of breath, she tried to take a break. However, girls and boys instantly rushed to her side to ask where she came from. Oh, the order's loud. Thank you for letting me know. Is that better? Oh, so yeah, don't worry. When everything's done, I always adjust the audio afterwards. But I'd rather you be able to hear everything nicely whenever you can. So yeah, don't be worried about yelling at me to let me know about the audio. Okay, the girls and boys instantly rushed to her side. She could honestly reply that she was only a poor unfortunate in exile who was helping old Anselm. They thought she was quite brave despite her prim manner of speaking. She was quickly welcomed into a group of young farmers who were bantering and exchanging latest gossip. Look at her, getting all like new group of friends and everything. The night was truly magical for the princess. Had never imagined she could get along with farmers her age. She was already lamenting how rapidly time went by. She was enjoying dancing and laughing so much that she wished it would never end. Nahima would have been proud of me, she thought, almost unconsciously. The recollection of her confidant agitated Kiona's mind. She immediately looked for a remote place to breathe. As she was getting closer to the woods, to take a few seconds of respite, the young Moor noticed Fleur in the company of a young man. afar, she could not make out what they were saying, but their gestures spoke for themselves. In fact, the boy she did not know brushed the teenager's hair before gently grasping her hand. Oh! Astounded, Kiona's mouth fell wide open when she realized he surely had to be a suitor. Fleur? In love? The possibility never crossed her mind. The princess tried to walk away as she did not want to seem impolite or give her friend the impression that she was spying on her. She did not have time to step back before the scene took an unexpected turn. Fleur refused the young man's hand and timidly pushed him away. From her spot, Kiona could not miss the boy's distraught face crumpling, while the adolescent shook her head negatively, as if she was trying to make him understand it was impossible. With a genuinely hurt expression, he turned around and vanished into the crowd. Whoa! At the exact moment, Fleur entered the forest and the young Moor was torn by the thought of leaving her alone. Oh no. Ah! I'm gonna follow her. Interesting. That keeps changing with the knife versus a flower, and I wonder what that means. Driven by an impetus, she could not quite explain. She had to follow her. Fortunately, the farmer did not go too deep into the woods, and Kiona was very easily came upon her. Fleur was sitting on a tree trunk, oddly quiet, just like the day at the graveyard. Fleur, are you alright? I saw you leave and I thought... It's to show your affection with Fleur. Interesting. Wonder where we're at. The princess stopped in her tracks. What could she possibly say? Words were bustling around in her head. She did not know which ones to pick. Fiona stood there, powerless. It's kind of you to worry about me, Donkey Skin, but I'm alright. I just need some time to think. Would you like me to leave? No, you can stay. To tell you the truth, you couldn't come at a better time. I think I needed some company. The princess silently sat next to her. Sometimes I feel like I have too many responsibilities to shoulder. I can't allow myself to be selfish when my family needs me. Is it because of your family that you rejected his advances? That you saw everything? Fiona instinctively put her hand over her mouth, but it was too late to feign ignorance. Curiously, Fleur did not seem particularly offended. It's nothing, eh? To be honest, I mostly turned him down because I don't feel ready for marriage yet. I'm way too young for that. I'd like to wait at least 2 more years. That way I'll be around your age. Princess's cheeks flushed when she heard that she was held up as a model. On a serious note, I don't think the time is right. It's customary for the bride to join her spouse's family. In my case, it would mean leaving my parents to their own devices. My father's getting old, and he's still suffering from his injury. I don't think he would manage without me. It is cute to see you worry about him. Fleur blushed. Not at all. It's just that it wouldn't be objectively benefit my father if I leave. You could put your needs before his own. I could, but that's not me. Even if we don't always get along, we are family. It's my duty to keep supporting my parents. The wedding will come afterwards. You're so mature for someone your age. I believe I just don't have a choice, you know. My family counts on me. I can't abandon them. That's exactly what I said earlier. It's too much responsibility for a single person. At times, I catch myself dreaming about being able to simply be myself, live without constraints. While the young girl was gazing at the stars, sighing, Fiona could not repress a certain softness, and patted Fleur on the head. Eager to help her friend, she straightaway imagined giving her a purse full of gold coins or a position at the castle once she would have regained her status as a princess. It was thus, very seriously, that she asked, "What would you do if someone told you you would not have to worry about your family anymore?" "I think I would switch places with you, Donkey Skin." "What do you mean?" "If I was free, it'd be so much easier. I could travel and see the world." I'll go seek my fortune elsewhere, just like you did. It'll be wonderful. But deep down, I know this will only remain a sweet and unattainable dream. Why is that? There's always a cage somewhere, no matter what you do, no matter where you go. You cannot escape it. No, Fleur. Moved by Fleur's nobility of heart, Kiona mentally vowed she would not forget about her when she would return to power. It's freezing in the shade. What about going back to the fire? The princess nodded, and the two girls returned to the festivity, hand in hand. The bonfire was still burning with enduring fervor. Come to think of it, you may not know the bonfire's meaning, Donkey Skin. Indeed, I suppose there was a symbolic aspect to it. Summer is the most difficult period of the year for farmers. Insects can contaminate us with all sorts of diseases. Passing travelers can plunder our resources. That's why we usually light this large fire, to protect us from the threats to come. Let us hope that protection will work then. They're so sweet! I hope nothing bad happens to them. I really just hope that she's able to, like, I don't know, regain some power and help them. The threats might have still seemed distant. Time flew so fast, it was already harvest time, the culmination of a year of work for farmers. Naturally, Kiona was requisitioned to lend her adoptive family a helping hand. Under the scorching sun, she had to cut stalks of cereals with a sickle. Can she do it? No! Oh god. Oh, they're giving me a lot more time now. Oh! Why have you done this? Oh my god, my poor finger. Oh my god. I'm gonna get carpal tunnel syndrome or something from this. I hope you know that. This is like the circle mini game in Pokemon Rangers. That's what this is doing. Oh, how much did I do? End of harvest. I have harvested 154 ears of wheat. I feel like I'm on fire. I know it's rough, Donkey Skin, but we must do it. Picture it this way. That's what you're gonna eat for the next 12 months. Despite Fleur's encouragements, the day proved to be exhausting for everyone. It was far from over. Once the wheat was cut, they still needed to assemble it in small bundles and arrange it so the grains could dry. Only at twilight did the family invoke the old donkey, Cadicon, in order to carry all those bundles of wheat to the barn. Breathless, the princess also helped stocking the harvested crop. Say, Fleur, why is there a bed of furzes between the wheat and the floor? That's so the wheat doesn't get damp. We have to preserve it through the year after all. Besides, furzes prickles prevent rats and mice from nibbling the grains. Fiona did not even have the strength left to marvel as she usually did, which worried the young girl. Something wrong, Donkey Skin? I'm drained, and I feel faint. It has been a long day. Seeing that we're almost done, you can go rest if you can't do any more. Really? I'm telling you! I cannot resist such an offer. Thank you so much, Fleur. I shall go to bed at once. Thus the princess went to sleep early while the farmers were finishing stocking the wheat. Consequently, she could not attend a crucial moment, the harvest results. Was it a good result, or? Our harvests are much poorer than in the previous years. That's what I feared. The weather has not been kind lately. How are we gonna feed ourselves with so little wheat? Famine awaits us. especially as we are now one more mouth to feed. Fleur stepped in straight away, ready to defend her friend. Wait, Kiona's not at fault here. She's helping us a lot. Of course, of course. We're not questioning her goodwill. But you have to admit, it's going to be difficult to feed 4 people with such poor harvest. Contradicting Anselm was impossible. Despite her affection for the young Moor, Fleur could not ignore it was going to cause a huge problem very soon. Even so, she tried to gain some time. You're right, but it's still a bit early to decide. Let's wait for the threshing, okay? It'll give us a more faithful overview of the state of our harvest. The farmer silently nodded with a concerned face. The future was looking uncertain. Kiona continued to act as usual, ignorant of the turmoil plaguing her adoptive family. At first, Fleur liked her carefreeness, as she saw that as a way to forget the dreadful Damocles sword constantly hanging over her. Until a certain incident. Oh no. I'm scared. Is this what the sword and the harvest thing were like dangling between each other in the thing? Oh no. One morning, the 2 maidens were going to the well when they noticed a gathering a few steps from the shack. It was a procession of horse riders who were clearly about to go hunting. Who are these people? Fleur furrowed her brow. It's Prince Griseld's escort. Prince Griseld? Well, yeah, you didn't expect him to stay locked up in his castle all the time, did you? I think that it's the man leading the procession, the one on the brown steed. The young woman stopped for a moment to look at the sovereign. He was a young man and a valiant prince who seemed affable and good-looking. Fiona could guess from his precise and dexterous movement that he excelled at war. You only had to look at the way he was petting the hawk nestled on his arm to realize the degree of refinement involved. Could it be he excelled in fine arts as well? This was all it took to make him amply gifted by nature, and the princess fell in love with the prince straight away. Wow, that was quick. In her eyes, the stranger was the embodiment of the brave Clegus, the courtly knight whose adventures she had read so many times. He is the lord of these lands, then? While looking at the procession going past her, Kiona could not help imagining herself trotting alongside the prince like a great lady. In her head, the young man was entirely devoted to her, on the lookout for her every desire, willing to please her. They were laughing together as he stroked her cheek. Lost in the glory, in the ideal chivalry from old times, he only felt the hand on her shoulder at the last moment and jumped. What's the matter all of a sudden? Are you sick, Donkey Skin? Fleur had retraced her steps upon seeing her friend rooted to the spot in the middle of the fields. Ashamed, the princess did not want to admit the secret liking she had for the prince. Everything is fine. I was simply watching the horse riders pass by. Do you not find them imposing? Sure don't look the same when you're perched on a horse. That's no reason to neglect feeding the cattle. Hurry up, that water's not going to draw itself. Fiona followed her comrade after glancing at the sovereign one last time. In her heart, she only wanted one thing, to be able to officially meet him. Right, it must be the first time you see the prince. You should get used to it. He's often in the area. Really? I suppose he is a great hunter. It's his passion, or so they say. Hardly a day goes by without him riding a horse and roaming in the kingdom, followed by his pack of hounds. Which is not a good sign for the crop, if you ask me. How so? I've heard farmers complain the king's dogs have trampled in their fields before. Just goes to show it's important to be meticulous when you're planting the hedge. If it's too low, hounds can jump over it. I'm sure he must have apologized for the unfortunate incident. The young farmer rolled her eyes with an exasperated look that Kiona was unable to understand. A few minutes of heavy silence, Fleur mumbled, You shouldn't trust Noble. These people are fickle. They're capable of good as well as bad. Do you even know what they put us through? I do not understand what you mean. Lords protect you, do they not? But at what cost? The king forces us to use the oven, the mill, and the press he has built. Yet you have to pay a fee to use those. I remember that from the other book. What was it? Oh no, that was a whole thing in Pillars of the Earth, and then they had to and then Jack ended up building like a different mill which they could use. And I remember one of the lords of the land got really pissed off at him. When you go to the mill to grind your cereals, the lord recovers part of the flour. When you go to the oven to bake your round loaves, the lord retains a few of them for his personal use. When you go to press to turn apples into juice, the lord deducts some for his wine cellar. That way the royal family can enjoy free food all year. The facility should belong to the community and benefit everyone, but no, we had to make sacrifices when we could grind the grain ourselves with a millstone and bake the bread in our own shack and press the wine ourselves with a small personal press. Don't you find that unfair? Faced with her friend's anger, Kiona could only clumsily trip over her words. It seems like a reasonable deal to me. The lord protects peasants with his army, and peasants thank him for his services by providing for his needs. Fleur let out a loud sigh. Don't take it the wrong way, but you're really naive, Donkey Skin. It's the lord himself who provokes wars with neighboring kingdoms, under frivolous reasons at that, and good people are always the one who suffer from it. Yet we have to pay him annual dues in exchange for his worthless protection as well. That's not all because, on top of these obligations, he also imposes status labor on us. But statute labor? The king owns lands and farmers under his authority must work there for free throughout the year. Besides, statute labor takes priority over everything else. I did not know. I never saw any of you go there. We're already struggling so much to tend to our farm because of my father's wound, it's impossible for us to go. We've made a temporary agreement with a neighbor. One of his sons works for the king on our behalf, and in appreciation we complete various tasks for him. I will have to volunteer soon to carry out our family's labor in his place. I see. I didn't know about that bit. I'm not sure you truly understand. Nobles are above the law. They do as they please. To them, farmers are mere ants to be squashed without an ounce of guilt. Fiona did not know what to say to soothe the bitterness in the young girl's heart. She could not refute such arguments, absolutely legitimate ones at that, but she could not disavow all the principles she had been taught since her earliest childhood either. To her, it was normal that nobles would enjoy certain privileges. She did not believe things could be any different. But it has always been that way. Why would it change? See, people don't even call those privileges into question anymore. They just do as they're told. That's why I hate nobles. Oh no. A deep unease took hold of the princess. She had been living with Fleur for several months now, and she had convinced herself the young farmer liked her, that they were good friends. This certainty had suddenly been shattered. Fiona tried to convince herself her comrade would change her mind if she was told her true identity, that the young girl would smile again and understand that not all nobles are bad persons. It was nothing more than a wish. Would she really embrace her point of view, or on the contrary, would she come to hate her? Slowly, painfully, Fiona realized that who she thought was her friend could turn against her at any moment. Should she confess and expose herself to her wrath, or should she keep concealing herself at the risk of making the situation worse? The princess was torn between conflicting ideas and did not know what to do. In complete disarray, she chose to hide her concern and withdrew in total silence. While flashing a hollow smile, she saw Fleur's icy tone as a death sentence, the death of their friendship. No! Friendship in danger, have an argument. The rest of the day progressed almost normally. The two girls went about their everyday activities. Nothing would have given away their argument. if not the distance that they were instinctively keeping between each other. Still overwhelmed, Kiona took advantage of a moment of rest to sneak in the forest and meditate. I have lost my way. Living with this family has been so hectic and full of surprises, I ended up forgetting who I truly was. Come now, Kiona, girl, what are you even doing? You are not a peasant. You deserve better than being a mere peasant. Kiona! She then remembered the hazel rod her godmother had entrusted to her, pulled it from her pocket, and sharply hit the ground. The magic chest appeared moments after. After slight hesitation, she anxiously opened it. She'd been hiding away in the countryside for months, and the prestige of a life of luxury had gradually faded until it had become a distant memory. Gone were the times when she had walked around her room wearing very pretty clothes. Kiona clumsily felt the fabric. The softness of silk was nostalgic. Oh, and she did her hair. Feverishly, she put on the dress, her favorite. The sensation was very different, much more velvet-like than the rough and dirty donkey skin. It was at that moment she realized she had not had a chance to look at herself in a mirror since her arrival at the farm. She glanced around the bokages before stopping in front of a water puddle. Speechless, she admired how different she looked in sumptuous clothes. This was only her common dress. The idea of her wearing the magical outfits given by her father seemed vertiginous. We're about to hit the break now, so we're gonna pause here for a little bit, and I'll be back in like 3 minutes. Hello, Fatan. And yes, I would 100% always go for a mocha. So I would go for the mocha latte. And the princess is smug because she... It's very complicated, but we've had a very long series of like months of living with the farmers and becoming closer and closer to Fleur, who is like this 14-year-old farmer who has been helping us, and we developed quite a lovely friendship with her, but just got into a fight, as Flint said, where Fleur pretty much made it very clear that she hates nobles because of like the power that they hold over peasants and, you know, just all of that. And Kiona really struggled to sympathize with her because, you know, it's kind of like the upbringing that Kiona's had has literally made her the way that she is. So now they had a huge disagreement. And she went into the woods to wear clothes, and now she's like, wow, this is who I'm supposed to be. This is the fit for me. And she's having a bit of a moment, I think. Also, yes, I fucking love the Final Fantasy 13-3 soundtrack. I think it's amazing. I really like Masahashi, I think. I keep getting his name wrong. Masahashi, the composer of most of the Final Fantasy 13 soundtrack. I love like his specific style, which is why I was so excited when I played Final Fantasy VII the remake and found out that a lot of I didn't know he did the soundtrack in that, but when I heard one of the tracks, I was like, this sounds very similar to Masahashi, and I was very pleasantly surprised. Masashi is Masashi, I knew it. Okay. Yes, thank you. I was like, this sounds very familiar to his style, and I was pleasantly informed that it was him that did a lot of the music in that game. But yeah, I know that it wasn't solely him in Final Fantasy 13. There were like 3 separate artists, I believe. So some of those soundtracks are the other ones, but yeah. I love the 13 series. I have to, like, I mean, I'm not gonna say I admit that because I have never really held that as a secret. I love that series. Faults and all. Anyway. With a triumphant smile, she challenged her reflection. 13-2 and 13-3 is actually a collab between Hamazu and different composers. Some of them come back for Final Fantasy VII Remake. Yes! I think one of the other composers who he worked with on a third game, I think was in 7. But I have to double check. But yeah, I just love his style. I remember I watched an anime when I was very young, and I heard, this was after I'd played Final Fantasy 13 for the first time, and I heard a track in it, and I was like, this battle track sounds, it was a slice of life anime, but this one track in it was like, this sounds like a battle track from Final Fantasy 13. Lo and behold, he composed the music for that one. Mitsuto Suzuki. Oh, wait, let me just double check. Of course, they did. Wait. Did they do some of the tracks in World Ends With You? Suzuki and Hamazu complement each other quite well. I think that kind of like, Hamazu does these really dramatic orchestral tracks, and I think Mitsuto does, or Suzuki does, sorry, I keep getting like the first and last names mixed up. I think they do like really good electronic type tracks. Oh my god. The first thing I saw, a Reddit post, Mitsuto Suzuki's absolutely destroying the atmosphere. The hyper-anime jazzy drum and bass that FF13 was so famous for is destroying the mood of my game every time I turn a corner. Wow, that is dramatic. No, I fucking love the soundtrack in Final Fantasy VII Remake. I thought it was really, really well done. I love World of FF soundtrack too. I'm sure Suzuki wasn't in that one. I just think like they tend to pick really good composers. I know that like the composer that they have for Final Fantasy XIV, what is his name again? Yeah. Soken is really, really good. I fucking love all of his stuff. I think that when he started like going more into experimental, it's just got really, really fun. Especially like the raids and all of those where he gets to just kind of go off and do whatever. I especially love the Shadowbringer soundtrack was incredible. Like it was just one of the best soundtracks in the Final Fantasy series overall. That being said, I do think that like the Final Fantasy 13 soundtrack is my favorite out of all of Final Fantasy games. I love Soken's work in Final Fantasy 14. 16's music left me kind of cold. I've heard that. I've not played 16. I don't really have any intention of playing 16, but I'm gonna be honest, it's mostly my bias to playing like girls. I just don't really care that much. I just don't really care that much about like rough guys. I don't like playing as them that much. So I'm just like, I'd rather watch someone play Final Fantasy 16 and enjoy it in that way than to play it myself, because I just don't feel like I have any interest in, what's his name, Clive? I don't really think I would have any interest in him myself, no matter how well he's written. You heard it here first, Coco hates Ben Starr. Is Ben Starr who plays him? I haven't played either, to be honest. I just enjoy soundtracks. That's fair. That's fair. There's a lot of games that I've listened to the soundtrack of and I've never played. That's absolutely fair. Anyway, I do think music can make or break a game for sure. I think if you have the wrong feelings playing at the wrong time, it can completely mess up a mood. Likewise, if you have the exact right track playing at a moment, it can make it like immortal in your mind. It can immortalize it in your mind, you know? Anyway, let's continue. Kiona is having a moment. I am back. The true Kiona is back. Oh no, Kiona. No, truly. Princess Kiona could not let herself be softened by the new everyday life. Ben Starr is a lead guy, regardless. Soundtrack's powerful. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no offense to Ben Starr. No issue to him. I just don't think I would care about Clive, the character. The peasant family was admittedly nice, but she had no plan to live with them forever. She had better things to do. She's having a bad moment right now. Distinguished ladies such as her deserved a life worthy of her status, to become queen and live in a castle surrounded by retainers. Mere peasants like them were unable to grasp the complexity of governing, and they had to remain vassals under the protection of a lord for that same reason. Speaking of, sorry, I just completely forgot, but since we have been talking about composers, I did realize that like one particular composer that really reminds me of Masashi is Yusuke Tsutsumi, who did the more dramatic tracks in The House in Fata Morgana and the subsequent games. And they have a similar style. Like, I'm thinking of Atonement from Final Fantasy 13, that kind of dramatic build-up track is very similar to like the dramatic build-up tracks in Fata Morgana. And Yusuke Tsutsumi just has like particular style, and like a lot of his like non-game tracks that he's made, like the albums he's made, have this kind of like strange electro beat to some of them, or like, but then will similarly build up in their own ways. Anyway, that's me just dropping some of my favorite composers. Getting me interested in Fata Morgana's music is incredible. Oh my god, Helia, if I could recommend any like visual novel, I recommend that one constantly. It is just amazing. It is a lovely, lovely, lovely experience. Weirdly enough, though, I prefer the PC version over the more polished remake that they made for the like consoles and things, the Dreams of Revenant edition, mostly because I just really like the scuffy backgrounds and things in the PC version. It's very crusty, but it just like has a vibe. Anyway, the soundtrack, definitely listen to the soundtrack at least. But lots of good things about Fata, I just never had the time until now. It's a very long game, it's true. It's about like, it's not long as like a long visual novel, but it's still quite long. And it's quite like, I remember when I played it, I streamed it, and that was before it was popular. I played it before it was popular, guys, before it blew up. And I had to like, I did like one section every week. I couldn't like, I would normally stream 2 weekends in a row. And I remember I couldn't do that because it literally was so heavy that I was like, I have to like take a break. Taking a whole week between each chapter. But no, it's a very lovely game. I think the music is very like phenomenal. The first game in particular though has several different composers, and you can kind of tell the different vibes that they have. They tend to be like distributed between different arcs in the story. And Yusuke Tsutsumi is like kind of like the overall, the big one. Like he does like the big moments and all of those, which come in much later on in the game. But I still think it's definitely worth listening to and getting your vibe. Anyway, mere peasants like them were unable to grasp the complexity of governing, and they had to remain vassals under the protection of a lord for that same reason. The unsophisticated individuals could only blame their own lack of capacities. Likely the cause of their poverty. They needed to be governed by nobles to survive and should show a little more gratitude. Someone put the donkey skin back on her. She's going crazy. Of course, Fleur's family was an exception. These good people had special circumstances, a streak of bad luck to which she would remedy as soon as she could reclaim the throne. A purse full of gold coins should be enough to solve their issues, just a purse. And then Fleur would finally admit that nobles could be generous, and she was mistaken about them. And deeply grateful, she would thank her benefactress with tears in her eyes. Kiona, no! Kiona could not help but smirk arrogantly, esteeming that everyone would benefit from her rise to power. God forbid a woman is girl boss. Oh. All that remains is to carry out the plan. They found the peasants! I'm crying. Oh, I do love a good princess moment. Once Kiona had considered that her exile at the farm was solely a temporary and rather entertaining excursion among the lower class, she had to focus on her main objective: meeting Prince Griselda and convincing him to marry her. Since she had kept a low profile all this time, it was the ideal moment to finally attempt to approach him without running the risk of alerting her father's messengers. However, there was still a missing link. That in that great sequence of events, a solution to contact Griselda without arousing suspicion of the peasant family, nor the squires who would not fail to escort their lord. Top priority was to tackle the delicate issue to finally be able to fulfill her destiny as a queen. She needs to pull the Sleeping Beauty moment, you know, like dance in the woods in her dress and then attract him in that kind of way. I don't mean to tangent again, but I saw a whole video on birds and they're like, so many birds seem to want to like attach to humans and try and mate with humans because humans are like, I don't know, I think if they pet them, then they'll just like, oh, so you are my lover for life, and they will just like fixate on people. It just thought, listen, it came up onto my thing, and I was like, what is this? And then it was just like, it had a whole story about this, I think a crane, like an endangered crane, and this guy who was called Crow. So it was a very funny story because his name was Crow, and he managed to get along so well with this crane, he was able to like help her produce new eggs because she refused to get along with any other cranes, and also that specific species of cranes would try and kill each other if they got slightly pissed off, so they had to like separate her from the others. She liked humans so much that they were just like, okay, she's clearly not gonna mate with a crane. So they got this guy called Crow to hang out with her, and they continued to like hang out even past that for the next like 50 years because cranes live a very long time and they mate for life. So what was the name? Muppet the crane was like, she continued to stay with him until she died, and it's just really like, it's a weird story, but also it's very sweet that he continued to like, you know, visit her and dance with her. Like he would actually like do a funny crane dance whenever he saw her. And, you know, just hang out, you know, up until she died. I just thought, like, he wasn't working there anymore past that. What if Anther Crane Nidichi? It's so funny. Anyway, her top priority was to tackle the delicate issue to finally be able to fulfill her destiny as a queen. Cute as a bird! I'm sorry, the idea of her dancing around in the woods to attract a mate just made me think of the crane dancing to attract another mate. Anyway, drowning in illusions of grandeur, Kyono had slipped away without thinking about Fleur, who was looking after the animals a stone's throw away. Yet by an ominous coincidence, the latter also happened to be daydreaming about a better life. The young farmer did not have the claims, but she was not blind to the shadow of poverty looming over her family either. Her father's wound would take time to heal, which put Huguette and her daughter in a difficult position. It was impossible to tend to their own farm with so few of them. And it was impossible for the whole family to work in another farm, because that would be too many mouths to feed. And now that Donkey Skin had joined them, there was no way they would abandon her. They consequently had no way out. The prospect of a new famine terrorized Fleur. Was she going to lose another member of the family, like she had lost Pauline? Or was she going to die herself, collapsing under the burden of her responsibilities? The worst case scenario, the three of them would die of starvation and cold. In the best case scenario, only one of her parents would die of exhaustion and malnutrition. And then what? All that remained would be for Fleur to wander along the roads with the surviving one and beg for food in the city streets. The thought was unbearable to her. Deep down, the young girl knew full well that saving her family was not her responsibility, but keeping still while waiting for the unavoidable to happen appeared even more painful. No! That is when Fleur had an idea, a crazy one. On occasion, Donkey Skin had told her her heart's nobility was remarkable, and she had certain qualities that was expected of a great lady. Becoming a princess was it not her only chance? Once she would be wealthy, she could find a position at the castle for her parents. They would never have to fear privation again. She had no feeling for Lord Grisald, but she was confident enough in her management capacities to see herself governing if given the opportunity. Rumor had it the prince still had to find a suitable wife. No noblewoman had managed to catch his heart yet, to such an extent that he was planning to organize a great ball. She would only need to slip inside the palace and... No, all of that was too absurd. She had to find a way to approach him first. Oh no. Although she had no concrete plan to achieve this incongruous idea yet, Fleur was willing to do anything to protect her family from ruin. Social climbing was her only salvation. She had to marry the prince. Oh no! This is not where I thought the story was going at all. Imperceptibly, the relationship between the two maidens had gone cold. They were simply too distracted by their own personal concerns to realize it yet. It only took a few weeks for a spark to arise. Harvests had made way for the next big activity. Fleur and Kiona now had to thresh the sheaves of wheat with flails to extract the grain. Once this was done, Anselm took over the winnowing. Thanks to a wicker basket with a strange shape, one of its end was flat and the other was round. Isn't that, what do they call that? A Chronotopia? Got it? Wait, what is that? Yeah, a cornucopia. Wait, is it called that because it holds corn? Oh my god. He shook the ears of wheat in the gentle breeze so that the grain's husks would be blown away. For once this operation, which was more repetitive than tiring, was entrusted to him, and so the young women took that opportunity to sit in the grass and watch him from afar. It is nice to rest for a change. True, we're usually the ones getting lumbered with the thankless tasks. It'd be even better if my father could assist us during the harvest or the threshing. I am certain that his wound will heal eventually. I hope so. It'd be way easier for the farm if my father wasn't restricted to minor activities. There's practically nothing he can do anymore except cooking. Come to think of it, I have never dared to ask before, but what happened exactly? How did your father injure himself? Oh no. Fleur's face darkened. It happened a few months ago, not too long before your arrival. My father had gone to the valley early in the morning to make the cattle graze when, all of a sudden, one of the king's horse riders, who was escorting him during a hunting party, burst into view in full gallop. We learned later on he had got lost and was trying to cross the meadows to join the rest of the group. In his hurry, he didn't pay attention to my father, and one of the sheep threw itself under the horse's hooves. The charger was pretty scared and moved aside to avoid it, but instead of crushing the sheep, it collapsed on my father, knocking over the squire in the process. The charger hit him with full force and broke one of his legs. It took him some time to even walk again. What a regrettable incident. We were lucky in our misfortune. The squire miraculously walked away unscathed, just like the horse for the matter, even though this kind of fall is usually fatal. Prince Griselda was absolutely furious when he learned the news. He even showed up to our house to intimidate us, kept saying over and over again that if the horse had any injury that could prevent him from galloping again, he'd force us to pay compensations. We would never have been able to fulfill such a request. That cannot be right. Oh no. Before the young farmer's astonished eyes, Kiona got back on her feet and pointed an accusing finger at her, foaming with rage. No! A man as kind as Prince Griselda would never do such a heinous thing. Kiona, you don't know Prince Griselda! No sooner had she said that than Fleur's face became distorted with fury as she took a similar stance. You dare say that I'm lying? Oh no. I think that you are making up stories. You must have misunderstood his words. The Lord can only care about his people. I was there, and I remember what he said perfectly well. He had no sympathy for us. None. Oh no. Impossible. A monarch like Prince Griselda is much too refined to insult his vassals. I'm telling you, that's just what he did. You are simply refusing to face the truth. He is a noble who put his own interests before others, that's all. The girlies are fighting. And this time I think Kiona might be in the wrong. Not might be, she is. You have no right to say such things about nobles. No! Oh yeah? Prove me wrong then. Kiona's like, billionaires have feelings too. From the very beginning, you have been full of prejudices. Nobles are like this, and nobles are like that. You simply see the world through the distorted lens. You only heard slanders from Prince Grisel's mouth, because that is what you wanted to hear. How can you say such a thing? You're out of your mind, my pure Kiona. My poor Kiona. I am perfectly sane, thank you. It was like, don't you know about trickle-down economics? No, Kiona. At some point, you're gonna need to wake up soon. We don't live in the Donkey's Kingdom where everyone is nice and all is well. We're in the real world. In this unfair world in which awful things happen to good people who don't deserve it. In this absurd world in which a horse's life is worth more than a human being's, in which you starve to feed a selfish king who only thinks about amusing himself. If you don't like it, too bad for you, because you don't have a choice. Why is it that you always imagine the worst? Because that's my fucking daily life. I live in the worst. I breathe the worst. I cannot escape it. Only privileged people like nobles can allow themselves to have a peace of mind in such a suffocating world. Are you ever going to stop with your hatred of nobles? If that's what bothers you, be my guest. Go find your noble friends. In the meantime, we'll keep on slaving away and earn our bread and butter. Oh no. Fleur stopped yelling and walked away livid, leaving an equally angry Kiona alone. Frustrated by the interruption that made it look like the farmer had won their argument, she immediately rushed in the opposite direction. I don't think she won her argument. I think she was just right, Kiona. The two maidens did not speak to each other for days. It greatly annoyed Anselm and Huguette, who did not ask for such an icy silence at mealtimes, nor did they ask to act like intermediaries for all the daily chores. As the situation quickly became unbearable, the princess decided she had to be the one to apologize. It would prove that she was magnanimous and did not give in to pettiness. Apologizing to prove that you are the nicer person and not because you're actually sorry is crazy. Naturally, her request for forgiveness did not ring very true, since Kiona was still convinced that Fleur was unwilling to see Prince Grisel's true nature because of her bias against nobles. Yet the farmer gladly accepted her apology. She was still fond of her friend, and it broke her heart to be accused like that. No! Fleur is 14. Why are we beefing with a 14-year-old Kiona? Especially when you're in the wrong, Kiona. From that fateful day. Who was the prince again? Prince Griseld. We saw him like for 1 second when he was riding around with his horses. Phaeton, Kiona does not know Prince Griseld. She has seen him once and instilled an entire story about what she thinks he's like in her head based on like one of the novels that she read about, I think it was Creole or something. The guy that, you know, helped this princess and lived happily ever after with her. So she's basing him off another story. She doesn't really know anything about Griseld except for what she's learned from Fleur and from what she's seen. And everything we have heard about Griseld is he's like a generic petty prince, you know? Like he's a arrogant noble. You know, he might not be evil, but he's just an arrogant noble. Griseld better be a great dude otherwise. She's so real for that. I mean, listen, I can't lie and say that I don't love a good haughty princess character, because I do. And y'all know that. I have a penchant for loving arrogant princessy characters, so I can't hate Kiona at all. However, I can still call her out that she's like insane. And I do understand that a lot of this is based on her upbringing, and also I've picked some bad choices, I think, and that's why we're going in a bad direction. So this is probably my fault. Anyway, I thought we were doing really well. I thought we were doing really well with Fleur and her family. I thought we were really getting somewhere, but I probably made the wrong choices somewhere, and we're not doing well anymore. But it's fine. Okay. From that fateful day, nothing would ever be the same again. No. It's not your fault. Kiona's just like that. No! The relationship between the two girls started to dramatically deteriorate. No, I just wanted them to be friends. Why am I so invested? It's like not even a... Like the thing with me and visual novels and stories and things is romances do not invest me as much as like a really solid friendship or like family relationship. That will get me so much harder. And this kind of break between these two is actually really hurting me. In addition to the already palpable tension, the grain storage confirmed that Anselm's family's dire predictions. The wheat supplies were much too scarce. It seemed impossible to sustain over a whole year with such a reduced portion of bread. The three farmers were talking together almost every evening to find a solution. I went and asked all the people I know. They are unanimous. Harvests have been poor for everyone. The famine is assured then. Is there no family in our area who would accept to help us? Unfortunately, all those who helped us in the past confirmed they would be unable to renew their commitment. That's understandable. They need to survive as well. Understandable, but they're still closing the doors on us. Drawing up all sorts of plans, the farmers thought about asking a distant relative for help, settling elsewhere, or even, as a last resort, leaving Fleur to a brothel so she could quickly make money. No! I don't understand. In Harvest Moon's Grand Bazaar, you can plant trees that give fruits during winter time, and there are specific plants that you can plant during winter time. Why can't we do that here? Are you telling me my game harvest and farming system isn't real to real life? However, busy as she was imagining how to approach the prince, Kiona did not pay attention to those desperate conversations and gradually retreated into a bubble. The contemplated sessions were not lost for all that, as the princess eventually devised a strategy. She only needed the fairies' cooperation and a bit of luck. At the slightest lapse of attention on the part of the farmers, she rushed all the way up the hill to secretly summon her godmother. Are you telling me we can't go to the river and fish up 25 fish in an hour? I can't believe I can't just fish up 25 fish and feed us for an entire, week. Are you telling me we can't survive on one bowl of rice every day for the rest of the year? Do you need me, my child? Oh my god, Medea, it's been forever! Hey, girl. Kiona marked a pause as Medea appeared. She had not gazed at the face since the night of her flight, and the pact they had forged seemed like a distant dream. Nonetheless, confronting once again those sharp eyes who were piercing through her flesh reminded her how formidable the fairy was, and she stumbled over a few words before pulling herself together. It's already late for me. I won't be able to see you finish the chapter. Good night. Good night, Helia. Have a lovely sleep. And we won't be playing more tomorrow. And keep up the usual schedule of tomorrow. I think I might be playing Resident Evil instead. But we'll continue next week. And I'll see how much we do today. How's the farm life going? Hi, Black Blue. It's not going well. It was going really well, and we had a lovely time with a new family, but we have now, we're beefing with the 14-year-old. And sorry in advance. What do you mean? What do you mean, sorry in advance? Don't say that. Don't say that. We're beefing with the 14-year-old because she doesn't like nobles, and we are a noble, and we want to marry the prince. And she's very much like, the prince is evil. I mean, he's not evil, but he's a dick. And so now we're upset. And also, they have not had a good harvest this year, so they're gonna starve and die. Have we met the prince? We haven't met the prince, but we have seen the prince because he hunts and stuff around the woods. And so we've seen him with Fleur, the farmer. And that's when she was like, ugh. Ugh. And we were like, what do you mean, ugh? He looks so handsome and lovely, and he seems like a lovely man. And we're a little bit delulu. We're a little delulu. I would like to ask for a favor. As long as your ambition remains reasonable, it would be within my capabilities. Go ahead, what do you wish? Could we not wish for like a bowl of rice every day to share? Surely that's not like a lot of power to take. I would like to talk to someone who lives not far from here. Would it be possible to lure them to a certain place at a certain time so we could meet? Influencing a human mind is indeed fairly simple. I think I can easily fulfill the request. Who should I bring you, and where do you want this meeting to happen? I would like you to lure Prince Grizel to the lake tomorrow. When he will be hunting, he will have to be alone. I have to make him wander away from his escort, then. Very well, love, I will grant the wish. All you'll have to do is indicate that you are in place, and I will draw the monarch to you. Thank you, godmother. It is nothing. Serving you is my mission. Good luck, princess. May that ruse give you the desired outcome. Wow, we didn't even... I thought we were calling her to help us with food. Never mind. Medea's pupils lit up with a grim glare as she disappeared in a whirlwind of colors. Kiona was in high spirits for the rest of the day, satisfied to finally be able to carry out her plan. Kiona's entering her asshole mode, I think. The next day, young Moore offered the Ansel family to go pick berries in the forest. Unsuspecting of her little scheme, they gladly accepted, considering it was a good sign for her to be active. Oh my god. In reality, Kiona positioned herself by the lake, cleaned up herself to look more presentable. Once she was assured to be alone, she used her chest to put on a dress of color in the sun. She had not made that choice by chance, it was her most dazzling outfit, her most opulent. Is the handmaiden just forever gone from the story? I miss her. We had a brief moment where we thought about her, and she's just gone. I think she might come back at some point, but as of right now, she's far away. I know. I think we all miss Nahima. I think we need Nahima because Kiona by herself is very prone to getting a little crazy. Richly adorned with jewels and precious fabrics, she fully intended to make quite an impression on the sovereign. I thought she was going to be kind to the family, and in order to stay, she was going to sell one of her dresses. No, yeah, I think because they're so unique, the second she sold one of them, she would definitely get caught. It would definitely, alert. Yeah, for sure. But she could have tried to do that. I think if she were as benevolent enough to do such a thing, and she weren't so reliant on the prince, she probably would have tried to sell them without realizing. It would have been funny if she didn't realize that and tried. I think she probably would still do that, to be honest. I don't think she would have really thought too much about it. He fully intended to make quite an impression on the sovereign. The princess was waiting patiently, mentally reviewing what she had to say and do to seduce him, when finally her beloved appeared. We're about to see the prince. Once upon a time, Prince Grizel had started his hunting party in a very ordinary way. He had treaded into the woods on his frisky horse to track the game. The sound of horns he liked so much had resounded as a pack of hounds had started running after a deer. He could not bring his favorite hawk that day, but everything seemed as usual, and he was eager to bring back a good catch once again. And then he had followed a meandering path which had taken him further away from his huntsmen. Echoes of the tumult had faded little by little until he found himself all alone in a remote part of the forest. Disoriented, the sovereign eventually exited the woodland maze and ended up further down the hill without understanding what had happened. Noticing a lake nearby, he decided to take a break so his horse could drink. As he was scanning his surroundings with some hesitation, Prince Grizel caught a glimpse of a light reflection coming from one side of the pond. He could not contain his curiosity and walked in that direction while holding the horse by the bridle. As he was coming closer, he heard an angelic voice singing. Of course she's singing. Finally, his eyes were confronted by the most delightful object he had ever seen. It was a young woman who was stroking her hair while admiring her reflection in the water. Her complexion was unusually dark, a skin tone he had never seen on a court lady before. Her hair, too, looked out of the ordinary, since they were frizzy like the wool of a sheep and appeared just as silky. The prince admired her engaging lips, her hazel eyes, which enhanced her brown eyelids, object, were shining with a fierce fire. Charmed by the apparition, he thought that such a supernatural being, dressed in such rich garments, could only be a fairy or a nymph. Transported by the admiration of the stranger, he ended up forgetting why he was here in the first place and blushed when, realizing she was observed, she bashfully jumped. Griselda timidly came closer and said with a trembling voice, I was gonna go for the silly voice for a second. Let's just go normal for him. 1,000 apologies for disturbing your rest, my lady. I thought my huntsmen. Have you perchance seen them pass through here? Alas, my lord, no one has been seen in that solitary place except you. But do not be disturbed. I will put you on the right road again. The monarch mentally expressed his gratitude for heaven for this extraordinary good fortune. I've been accustomed to visit such places for a long time, but until today, I was unaware of the wonderful treasure that might contain. Amused, the young woman smiled upon hearing these advances, but chose to stay humble. You are far too kind, my lord. It's working. With elegance, she guided him to the road until the palace's roofs were finally in sight. His expression. She then bowed before him and pretended to take her leave. What? The prince, who had mapped the place in his head, only thought of seeing the maiden again and tried to delay their parting. May I see you again? I still have to thank you for the valuable aid. Knowing that you are safe and sound is already a big enough reward, my lord. However, if you were to fancy getting some peace far from the turpentides of the court, you would find me in the same place should the weather be clear. Prince Griselda walked away, consumed with curiosity, and soon he had one obsession, finding out who the beautiful stranger was. Oh my god, he brought his guitar? Get out of here. Fiona's plan had worked far beyond her expectations. The monarch was now regularly visiting the court to court her. And as she had done the day of their first meeting, he made sure to preserve the mystery around her identity to tease his curiosity. Here's a Wonderwall! It's a lute! I think you're right. I'm dead. Thanks to her appetite for courtly love stories, she always knew exactly what to say to highlight herself. Of course, it did not elude her that the little game sounded hollow, but she considered that it was simply how the game of love worked, and that she had to stack all the odds in her favor if she hoped to marry the prince. He looks like she has a bald spot. It's because the color is like... Oh, that's so funny. Grisel's diligence in coming to their tryst was, however, not without consequence. Is she bald? No. That's just the hat. It's not a very flattering hat. Grisel's diligence in coming to their tryst was, however, not without consequence. The young woman seemed even more absent-minded than usual, and the Anselm family did not fail to notice, even though the reasons of the sudden disinterest completely eluded them. Fleur first believed it was her friend's way to cope with their disagreement, that she had definitively cut herself off from reality. He attempted to appear softer, to renew contact, but it seemed to plunge Kiona into a strange apathy. Fleur's really trying! I'm sad! Kiona! One rainy day, when the farmers had locked themselves in a shack to take shelter, Fleur attempted to reach a definitive reconciliation once more. Say, Donkey Skin, Can you tell me a story? You know how much I love listening to you. Sorry, I'm not in the mood today. I would rather keep to myself. Is it my fault because of last time? I don't want our relationship to end because of that. Do not worry. It has nothing to do with you. I simply need some time for myself. Fiona turned to the wall and sighed with a wistful look while doing her hair. She was dying to see the prince, but the rain made it impossible. Fiona! Although his absence was tugging at her heart, the memories of their tender tryst led her to smile into space almost despite herself. The princess thought she had done Fleur a favor by reassuring her, by freeing her of guilt, and she believed that there was no need to worry, that everything would soon get better for her. Yet her apparent composure only aroused the farmer's suspicion. She was now convinced that Kiona was hiding something. I'm surprised he hasn't invited her to the castle. Me too. But I guess this is like the exact situation that happened in one of the webtoons I read, the villainous ones, where she was like specifically trying to get the prince to fall in love with her after like going back in time. And she did this exact thing. And he wasn't really allowed to really like invite anyone, so he didn't do that. But that's what I'm thinking. But I don't think he's as nice as that. Anyway, nothing seemed to matter to her anymore. Something must have happened. Fleur was determined to solve the mystery. She's going to follow her. Oh no. The following day, clouds gave way to the sun again, and the princess went to her rendezvous overjoyed. In her haste, she did not even notice the young farmer had discreetly followed her, in order to understand once and for all what was wrong. Fleur had the ingenious idea of hiding in the reeds from the right distance. Thanks to her small size, she appeared almost undetectable, while being close enough to be able to spy on any conversation. Oh, she's changed outfits! I remember this is one that I really liked. Kiona did not notice a thing and welcomed the prince as usual. Ruh-roh. Seeing her friend in such rich garments already took Fleur aback, and the sudden appearance of the lord plunged her into a state of shock, making her perfectly speechless. Fair Kiona, you have given me your name, but I have yet to know what led you here. Where are you from, and why are you always remaining near the lake? Alas, my lord, it is a very sad story. He fell silent while taking a dramatic stance. Griselda pressed her, and she pretended to give in, even though she had been secretly dying to confess everything from the first day. However, she also decided to slightly distort reality to make it more interesting. I am the princess of a neighboring kingdom. The king, my father, was deceived by a perfidious counselor and dismissed me. I have lost everything. That is why I came to take refuge in your beautiful country. What a horrible thing to do! How can one dare to disavow his own daughter? Alas, my lord, the poor man is not in control of himself anymore. How have you managed to subsist since your exile? I have been taken in by a peasant family who is unaware of who I am. They make me work from dawn to dusk as a scullery maid, but I am fed and housed. Kiona! I like to come here on my free time to meditate and dream of a better life. Such louts! Tell me who is mistreating you, and I will have them killed! Do not take the trouble, my lord. They are simple-minded but not harmful, and I remain grateful to them for rescuing me. You are far too kind, Kiona. I cannot bear the idea of you being in such wrong hands. That is the way it goes, my lord. Kiona! This is so rude! Oh my god! Fortune does not always smile on us. Dry your tears, my fair Kiona. I know of a way to bring your torments to a close. Are you seeking to make a mockery of me, my lord? My father does not want to hear from me. Thus I am no longer a princess. Griselle took her hands with passion. I love you, and I am ready to marry you this instant. By my side, you will recover the glory due to your status. Will you agree, lovely Kiona? Ah, you are filling me with joy. I did not dare think an exile like me would have the right to be loved by a monarch like you. If I suit you, I swear to become your wife and to never have any other wishes
then what you shall desire.
Shocked, Fleur was unable to hear the rest of the conversation. She remained emotionless until the two lovers walked away and eventually fled into the forest. Oh my god, poor Fleur. She just called her. She called her. Oh my god, anger seized her. From the very beginning, Kiona had been a princess, a distinguished noblewoman, and she had always concealed it. Even worse, all the time she claimed to keep to herself, she had been lying to meet the prince. The farmer felt deeply disgusted and betrayed. She had thought Donkey Skin to be her friend, but the young Moor never dared confess who she truly was. She had no qualm making herself look good in front of Griselda by pretending she was mistreated. Fleur violently punched the trunk of a tree. Pain could not make her forget the conversation she had overheard. Anger gave way to sadness. She did not know what to do anymore. Anger is a secondary emotion after all. There was still a glimmer of hope after all. Kiona had appeared uncomfortable every time the young girl had criticized nobility. In all likelihood, she had simply failed to explain her situation to her friend. Perhaps things would get better if she were to confront her with the truth. That night, Fleur took her parents aside to explain to them what she had heard. Of course, they were furious to have been deceived, and were about to severely reprimand Kiona when the farmer stopped them. Please, I understand your anger, but I want to give her one last chance. Act as if nothing happened and we'll make a decision. But Fleur, I'm just as hurt as you are, but I like to believe it's all a misunderstanding, that I have misheard or Donkey Skin intended to tell us. Anything is still possible. If she comes to me to explain the situation, I am willing to forgive her. You're too nice, Fleur. It'll be your undoing. Probably. But this world needs kindness. Fleur, she's only 14, and yet she is like the nicest person in the world. So be it. We will wait before taking action, but she'd better have a good explanation. In the meantime, Prince Griselda had gathered his council and announced with great pomp his decision to get married. There was great rejoicing, and all councillors had lost hope of seeing their sovereign take a wife. Damn, was he that? Why was he so against marriage before this? However, eager to cause a sensation throughout the country, he decided to keep Kiona's existence secret. Thus he added, "Yet I will wait for this great day to reveal my choice. Meet your new princess, I found her in the forest." It's better than him being like, hey, meet your new princess, it's my child. I'm getting married to my child. As soon as the news went public, the wildest rumors about the future bride's identity spread. Some saying the bride was a mere shepherdess, but that her charms emulated those of a lady of high birth. Others whispered he'd chosen one was a new duchess from a faraway kingdom, who would arrive on the wedding day in a horse-drawn carriage, followed by a procession of peacocks. Kiona was internally delighted at this commotion, and nothing filled her with vanity more than listening to the peasants she had met during Midsummer Eve gossiping about the new queen. Her head high, she was walking around them with the conviction that she had been chosen to rise above the masses. That she was an extraordinary woman. I do so love a flawed character. I do so love an asshole of a protagonist. Not a single day went by without Kiona dreaming of the princely life awaiting her, dreaming of the reward for her efforts. Oh no. If truth be told, she was so obsessed with the impending marriage she barely perceived the change in behavior of the Anselm family. The farmers indeed seemed especially affable, constantly asking her if she needed something or if anything was bothering her. Kiona was mildly touched, yet esteemed that it was unnecessary to tell them she was the bride. After all, she was nothing more than a stranger. Surely they would attach little importance to her happiness. Kiona! Besides, she had already planned to send them money after the wedding. There was no need to linger on. The reward alone would make them feel her good intentions. They would promptly realize how fair she was as a queen. Perhaps they would even be flattered at the idea of having shared the day-to-day with a royal highness. Oh my goodness. I remember I didn't really like that outfit as much as the rest. Prince Griselda visited the young Moor one last time before the great day. He announced such a boastful tone that he had managed to drive away her father's emissaries, that he was vouching for her safety, for which she was immensely grateful. Since he had a taste for grandiosity, he wanted to give her a ceremony worthy of her. Fair Kiona, I want our wedding to go down in history. You will join me at the last moment on a great chariot made of gold and ivory, and I will take you on a vast ship I have built. We will cruise with distinguished guests, so I can introduce you to all of them. At last, we will reach dry land and go to church on the same chariot. A huge banquet will await us at the castle, as well as 1,000 pleasures, dance, games, races, tournaments. Our union will be celebrated all over the country. You honor me, my lord. I cannot wait to appear at your arms. And with that, we are entering another break, and I have to stop for another 3 minutes. I'll be back in a little bit. I'm gonna get some water and just have a little walk around because I've been sat for a while. There we go. Are y'all ready to see some horrendous things happening? Because I think that is what's gonna happen. And I'm worried, but let's see. Maybe it'll be fine, I don't know. You honor me, my lord. I cannot wait to appear at your arms. A little patience, my angel. Blech. The caravel will be moored at one end of the dock, and the chariot will be hidden at the other end. You'll only need to say that I have sent you, and the guards will let you in. As for your clothes, I have already prepared a cabin on the ship with a full wardrobe, and all the necessary personnel to find the ornaments you deserve. All you need to do is present yourself in your favorite dress and change during the cruise. Would this be acceptable to you? Certainly, my lord. I guess that's why he's not taking it to the castle. Prince Griselda reluctantly parted from his future spouse and assured her how blessed he was to wed her. I don't get why he's not just taking her with him, though, and to live somewhere lavishly. Especially since he's so how can they treat you like a scullery maid? How could they do this? Kiona had no problems believing him, although she had no illusions about her lover's desire to impress his court either, particularly the other nobles. However, in her eagerness, she had forgotten to ask him one crucial piece of information. Not knowing the kingdom very well beyond the small farm of her adoptive family, she did not know whether a meeting place could be located. She blithely considered that all the farmers would not fail to go to such an important event. She was bound to find her way. For safety purposes, she wanted to protect herself nonetheless. Thus that evening, she took advantage of mealtime to talk about it to Anselm's family. I have heard that Prince Griselda is organizing a great celebration in honor of his wedding tomorrow. Is that true? Absolutely. It's the talk of the town. Would it be possible to go there? I would like to see the first. Just tell them, Kiona! Besides, it's not every day we get to attend such festivities. Of course, Donkey Skin. We will go to the quay tomorrow to watch the ship sail away. You can come with us. Thank you very much. Oh my god. All happy, the young woman proved to be particularly in a good mood throughout the evening, even going as far as to spend time with the farmers, something she had not done in a long while. They all looked thrilled, except Fleur, who was rather agitated. So agitated she did not hesitate to take her friend aside a bit later. What is it, Fleur? Did you want to talk to me? You know, Donkey Skin, I'm very happy you're spending more time with us. You suddenly became so cold and distant, it broke our heart at the time. Don't forget that we care about you, all right? Oh, how adorable you are. Oh, Kiona immediately took the farmer in her arms. The latter wiggled to free herself from her grasp and tried to carry on with her speech with a completely serious look. Let me finish. I wanted to tell you, I wanted to ask, if something were to bother you, a worry, an important event, a doubt, if something were to bother you, do you promise that you would come to talk to me about it? Touched by so much kindness, the princess swore. Naturally. We are friends, are we not? Of course. I'm stupid for even asking. See? Oh no, but she didn't. Oh! There's something here. The bottle? Interesting. How many more do we need? 2 more. What a random thing to pick up. Kiona went to bed at the very culmination of delight, already dreaming of her wedding. Fragment number 1, the Green Fairy. She'd been so active she fell asleep from exhaustion. In her blissful dreams, the young Moor was surrounded by smiles. Oh no. Fuck. In reality, she was surrounded by 3 menacing silhouettes. The farmer's benevolent mask had dropped, replaced by a much sterner expression. Anselm and Huguette whispered to their daughter, "What are we doing now?" "I wanted to give her one last chance to extend my hand." "Cannot wait any longer. The ceremony is imminent." "He's right. We have to act and quickly." "What do you think, Fleur?" "She has to pay." Whoa. That morning, the heiress was in an excellent mood. My god, what are they going to do? Are they going to throw her in the river? Without further delay, the family went to the quay where the Lord's large vessel was supposed to raise anchor. Even though they had all arrived quite early, the crowd was already rushing to the pier, impatient to catch sight of the bride. Farmers were chatting enthusiastically to pass time. "Who do you think the bride is?" "I think the prince is not chosen. It has been claimed and he was going to organize a great ball to find his wife. I bet it's the true purpose of this cruise. He's going to choose on the ship and we'll only know who she is when they return." "Nonsense. I say he has eyes on a low-born girl. This is a smokescreen to make it more acceptable." "I wouldn't mind being chosen in that case." "Same." Kiona let a satisfied smile slip as she was spying on the quarrels around her. Thinking the moment was ideal, she pretended she urgently had to relieve a natural need to slip away. They're gonna push her over? She hurried in a remote corner to make her magic chest appear. Is she gonna change in front of everyone? After much hesitation, she eventually selected the dress the color of time, which she donned in the blink of an eye. This outfit was much less dazzling than the dress the color of the sun, and much less sophisticated than the dress the color of the moon, but the ethereal appearance seemed perfect for the wedding. While admiring her reflection in the water, the young woman swirled with a triumphant look, her voice quavering with emotion. She sighed and tapped her cheeks. "I cannot believe I'm getting married." "And I can't believe you dared betray us." Oh! What a time to do this. Kiona jolted. She hardly had time to turn around when she felt arms seizing her. Much to her surprise, she recognized the faces of her adoptive family, distorted by an animosity she had never seen before, as Anselm and Huguette were bending her arms behind her back to prevent her from defending herself. Fleur calmly, slowly walked towards her. She was no longer the sweet and caring little farmer she had known. The one who appeared before her eyes was nothing more than the incarnation of hatred. With evil eyes, Fleur stopped only a few centimeters away from her chin. "Feels good to be the one looking down on others for once." "Fleur, I do not understand. What is happening?" "What's happening is that, while you're dreaming of your shiny, magnificent palace, we peasants have to break our backs in the hope of escaping from poverty. The world is unfair. God is unfair. He doesn't necessarily reward those who work hard. In a few weeks, we will have nothing left to eat. In a few weeks, cold and hunger will take us all. You don't care in the slightest, do you?" Fiona remained speechless upon realizing that she had not paid any attention to the harvest results. Guilt washed over her as she finally put the pieces of the puzzle together. That was the reason their faces had darkened shortly after the harvest. Why they were talking around the fire almost every night. Why Anselm was going more often to the church to pray. The princess had ignored the sufferings of her adoptive family. She had only thought of herself, and it was now too late to make amends. "I'm sorry to hear this, Fleur. Once I return to power, everything will be all right. I can promise you that." "How can we believe you when you keep lying to us?" What are you going to do with me?" "It's simple. Fleur's going to take your place and marry the prince." "How?" "That is absurd. Grizel will immediately notice a difference. Of course, but the Lord caused quite a commotion when he announced his wedding. He cares deeply about impressing the guests. I think he won't be able to go back in front of them. Absolutely. We have prepared an explanation as well. We will tell him the princess has been under a spell, and her skin was to remain brown until the day a man with a pure heart would marry her. What? We will claim that the enchantment is now broken, and this is her true appearance. Either he will be fooled, and Fleur will be able to pose as you, either he will see right through the lie, and the three of us will be hanged. But if we don't do anything, we are going to starve to death anyway. Exactly. We may as well give it a try. I bet that Fleur will already look like a great lady by putting on one of your dresses. And if I enhance her with a bit of makeup, she can absolutely look the part. Especially as she perfectly knows how to adapt. She will only need to repeat other nobles' turns of phrases or keep silent. It cannot be. You cannot do that. Oh no! Fleur's goodwill. Be nice to Fleur. With an afflicted look, Fleur spoke. I'm sorry, Kiona. I'd really love to do otherwise, but this is a unique opportunity. We cannot let it pass by. We're ready to gamble with our lives for a chance, even slim, to get out of the grinding poverty that threatens us. Fleur. I don't know if you were sincere or if you were only pretending to win my trust, but you told me one day I should be more selfish, that I should stop sacrificing myself for the sake of others. I think this is the best compromise. By marrying the prince, a better life awaits me. For the first time in 14 years, I'll not have to worry about being hungry. I will not have to break my back all day long just to have some slop on my plate. I will finally be able to think about myself, take some time to meditate and enjoy life. Of course, I'll also be confronted by many things. I don't know, but this doesn't scare me. I'm ready to take up a challenge. I'm ready to learn. No, I'm eager to learn. I want to be able to tell stories as beautiful as yours. For now, I know I am incapable of that, and for now everything is gray and bleak around me. Everything is only an eternal repetition. Like a rock, I would desperately attempt to roll up to the top of a mountain, only to see it tumble in a split second. I too want to be happy, Kiona. I too have the right to be happy. Princess could feel her cheeks getting damp in the grip of emotion. Fleur's speech was deeply affecting her, and she was more than willing to help her friend. I am sure of it. You deserve much better, Fleur. But why sacrifice me? We could both be happy. You know very well that it's not possible anymore. You know, I have grown very attached to you in such a short time. I was even beginning to regard you as my own sister. I've been a fool, haven't I? I've been a fool to believe you could care about me. I do care about you, I swear it. Liar, you betrayed me. All this time I was extending a hand, I was showing you I was ready to accept you, but you rejected me like I was nothing to you. Can you only imagine how much it hurts to see my best friend plotting to run away behind my back, without even telling me, without even thinking of making me a part of her plan? Yet that really was my intention. You should have said something, Kiona. You're nothing but a liar. Don't say a word. I won't believe a thing coming out of your mouth. Your words are snakes. You've despised me, you've mocked me, you've plotted right under my nose, and for that, I cannot forgive you. The young farmer was sobbing, just as much as her former comrade, now captive. It was a very strange sight, both of them whimpering, both of them filled with regrets. Finally, Fleur dried her tears and stood up straight. I'm sorry, Kiona. I really wanted us to be friends, but fate has decided otherwise. I love my family, and I'll do anything to save it, even if it means sacrificing you. That's how it is. Fleur, no! Do not do that. Farewell, Donkey Skin. I'm well aware you'll never be able to forgive me either. At least I hope you'll understand. Fiona was desperate. In spite of her sobs, she struggled as much as she could to release herself from Anselm and Huguette's claws. Inflexible, they stripped her of most of her clothes and grabbed the chest full of sparkling jewelry by force. No matter how many times she shook her hands and feet, it was no use. She quickly wore herself out. As she could not hold back her tears anymore, she noticed that Fleur was turning her back so that she would not see her. I'm so sorry, Kiona. Moments after, she felt strong hands pushing her back and she was thrown into the river. She did throw us! Oh my god. Like most individuals at the time, the princess did not know how to swim, and having already been drained of her energy upon trying to escape her kidnapper's claws, she could only sink. Her vision became blurry, and her mind was overwhelmed by her inability to understand, as her horizon was getting tinged with a deep blue. The sight of the iridescent reflections coming from the surface, although hazy, had something poetic. The young woman felt light. She felt good. All of her worries seemed to fly away like bubbles. Nothing mattered anymore. As she was sinking deeper and deeper, the atmosphere became more and more suffocating as well. The light was slowly fading away. With it, the outside world, the world of the living. The depths were engulfing her, leading her away, faster still in an inexorable fog. She was running out of air. Her consciousness itself seemed to evaporate. She tried to move, but her time was wasted. Her agony had no end. What should have been the most beautiful day of her life had taken an unthinkable turn, and she felt a knot in her stomach, twisted with bitterness. Why did a story have to end like this? A late realization suddenly struck her. She was going to die. Asphyxiated pupils widened with pure terror. The princess gathered the last of her strength to raise a shaking and convulsing hand. Let yourself die. Fairy! Great fairy, please help. As she resolved to call her godmother, the fairy's voice echoed in her head straight away. Yes, my child. Medea, allow me to go back in time so I may have a second chance. Your wish is my command, princess. Oh my god, thank you, great fairy. With these words, the same magic circle which had materialized during their pack appeared before the young woman. It illuminated her with a blinding light, while the fairy was reciting a similar spell. The magic words' echoes filled Kiona's heart with fear. She did not have time to put more thought into it, because everything that was around her disappeared. Her body rose in the air, flapped by a powerful wind, as if she was moving at a great speed. The last minutes of her life flashed by backwards. Like a furious bull, no one could stop. Without warning, she lost consciousness, and the world ceased to exist. Drowning! Wait, that doesn't even have like a explanation on the achievement. That's interesting. It just says drowning and nothing else. Fiona was drifting unconscious in an ocean of darkness, at the border between life and death. At the instigation of the fairy, the thread of time had rewinded by itself. The world had reverted to that fateful moment, when everything had turned upside down. What moment are we being pulled back to? The surge of time was about to turn its own tide. The dam would not hold much longer. Thus opened the invisible doors. A new cycle could begin, a new choice. All the way back here? The princess brutally regained consciousness on her bed, gasping for air. She had the unpleasant sensation that her vital energy had leapt in a body which had stayed inert for too long, the ill-conceived body of a doll. With bulging eyes, her heart still pounded from the dread. She remained perfectly motionless for a handful of minutes. I feel like, great fairy, surely you could have like taken us back just like a couple of weeks before, and we could have been like, hey, you know, and told the family what we were doing. I mean, I guess there's always the chance that they would have like done something before then, but just saying. Now we have months that we've lived and we have gone back in time and we remember all of that. Memories were flowing back to her, feelings too. Fiona remembered with unparalleled precision the progressive asphyxia that had seized her body. Alone in the deep blue, powerless, unable to shout, sinking always a little more under the resigned gaze of Fleur. She remembered everything. She remembered her death down to the very last detail. Shocked by the unsettling imagery, which had etched itself into her retina, the princess broke down in tears. Sobs immediately alerted Nahima, who was positioned in the room. What's happening, princess? Oh my god, that's not her voice. What's happened to you? The mere sight of a friend redoubled her tears. Nahima, it's been so long. She had missed her reassuring face so much in her darkest hours that she did not dare believe in her good luck. Disarmed, the confidant rushed to her side and held her in her arms, consoling her the best she could. Oh, princess, it hurts me to see you in such a state. What misfortune could have caused the swift grief? You seemed perfectly calm a bit earlier. Trivial sentence aroused the heiress's suspicion. Still lost between the new reality and her confused memories, she was not quite sure what happened. A bit earlier? I'd gone to see how you were doing. I was supposed to meet your godmother during the day. We'd read all of this. Let me just check the settings really quick. Skip scene messages. Okay. Let's see if that works. Okay, yeah, that's all. So we'd all done that. Incidentally, upon consideration, Kiona did not even have a change to strategy. No matter the nature of her vision, she was now acquired knowledge from the timeline of her death. She knew what was going to happen by carrying on such and such actions, which provided her a certain advantage. It was possible to distort the course of things and shape a new outcome by using this precious data. For instance, she was convinced that fleeing with a donkey skin was the right solution. An error in execution admittedly foiled her plan, and she was starting on a sound basis. After all those sweet moments spent in Grisel's company, she was more intent on marrying him. She's not learned anything about Grisel. Let us call my godmother without further delay. I'm already here. The two young women flinched upon hearing the fairy's voice, as she had once again appeared without warning. The scene had a sense of deja vu. We done this? Yep. We're not allowed to pretend to be. We're still not allowed to do that one again. Leave the skin of a disguise. New! I love that. Realizing she was now holding all the cards, Kiona decided to persevere and make the exact same request. Godmother, I believe an invisibility spell is little to ask. As such, I would like you to do me this favor so I could escape the castle dressed in donkey skin. Fairy frowned with a hint of distrust. Well, I don't know where you've heard this sort of... I thought Medea would be able to remember the details. I know that previously she said the exact same things again, but I thought considering she's beyond time, she would be able to remember everything. But maybe that's only if she's not on Earth and if she's like outside, like in the fairy realm. If you desire, I would joyfully help you and... Allow me to ask one last service. Since my goal is to seek refuge with the neighboring lord, I will need to bring with me evidence of my social status. Would you happen to have at your disposal a magic chest of sorts that would allow me to bring my most beautiful clothes along? Medea's tone, until then rather jovial, hardened. Assuredly, I can give you that. Uh-oh. Her eyes still veiled with doubts, the fairy traced some invisible words in the air. We're gonna piss off Medea. I'm worried. A stick magically appeared. She held it to Kiona moments after with a crooked grin. As the princess was about to grab the hazel rod, Medea slyly withdrew her hand. I suppose I do not need to explain the functioning to you. Kiona gulped upon catching the intimidating eye of the creature. Had she understood? It suddenly seemed obvious that she could not envisage deceiving her. Whatever she did, her godmother would eventually perceive her true intentions. As she was trying to regain her composure, the princess caught the item with a polite smile. It will indeed not be necessary. Much to her surprise, Medea remained unperturbable and did not insist. Is that all you desire? Yes, godmother. Don't try and trick a fairy. Never try and trick a fairy. Kiona then turned to Nahima in the hope of forestalling her protests. Luckily, the young Moor was too amazed by her attitude to realize what was going to follow. You already know how to use the magic wand, princess, and how are you aware your godmother could make you invisible? It's a long story. Let us say we have mentioned the various means of planning my evasion this afternoon. Oh, I see. That would explain many things. But in that case, why did she look surprised to hear you talk about it? Don't worry about it. The princess bit her lip with vexation. The smallest lie threatened to lead her in a tumultuous zone. She risked wasting time by trying to justify herself. She had to cut this conversation short and fast. Listen, Nahima, we have far more pressing matters to attend to for now. You're right, princess. I don't want to bother you. Fiona let out a discreet sigh of relief. She was now able to move on to the next step. Suddenly, placing both her hands on her friend's shoulders, she looked her straight in the eye, which resulted in Nahima blushing furiously. Princess, what are you... Nahima, what I'm going to tell you is very important. Would you hear me out? Of course. The path that lies ahead of me will be fraught with hazards. My exile will be bitter, and I'm sure that I will rue your absence many times. Yet even if it costs me dearly to say this, I must go alone. The gods will immediately recognize me if you are by my side, and I cannot allow myself to put you in danger. Fear not, this will only be temporary. As soon as I will have successfully obtained protection from a lord, my priority will be to send a letter to tell you where I am and invite you to join me. Nahima opened her mouth to reply, but no sound came out. Fiona said with a honeyed voice, Do you swear you will not forget me, Nahima? The young Moor instantly regained her usual upright stature and cleared her throat. Come on, princess. What were you thinking? Forget you? Over my dead body. I am glad to hear that. Does that mean you are giving me permission to leave? Of course. You have my blessing. I like how we gave her the full explanation before she, had a whole, thing. Now that we know that she's gonna, freak out. Even so, days will seem so long without you. Don't keep me waiting too long. I knew I could count on you. Translating words into actions, the princess rushed up to her friend, and the two maidens threw themselves into each other's arms, under the inscrutable eyes of the fairy. Oh, I think we've read this. Oh, wait, nope. This is new. While the retainer was delighted her mistress was showing her some affection, the latter was already anticipating the moment of her reunion with Lord Griseld. Ruh-roh. Yeah, she's getting a lot more manipulative for sure. This is also new. Impatient, Fiona hastened to use the wand and fill the magic chest with her most beautiful dresses before finally donning the donkey skin. She turned to the fairy and her friend. I must go. Wish me luck. Let me hear from you soon, princess. Godmother, do what you have to do. The creature moved forward with an indescribable expression. Blocking the moonlight with her gigantic shadow, she planted herself before Kiona without uttering a single word. Was she going to make a comment? She felt her heartbeat accelerating in her chest. In silence, Medea cast a spell to make the young woman entirely transparent. There you are, now invisible. I don't think I need to say more. Be extremely careful. You can count on me, Godmother. I am leaving at once. I promise. I promise you my exile will be short, Nahima. Be careful, princess. With brief farewells, Kiona vanished in the castle's corridors until the defeated look of her servant, still disappointed and worried. Will I ever see her again? The fairy, who had stayed oddly silent, tried to comfort her. There. I know I should not, but I have a bad feeling about this. Nothing will be the same again. You are so powerful. What is she going to say this time? I shall watch over her. Oh, she didn't say she's not going to get far this time, because she said that last time. Fiona was stealthily sneaking through the corridors. She stopped for a few moments, untook a torch. She had no need to consult Nahima. She was already familiar with the pathway. One thing off my list, she exclaimed when she was in the midst of waters. Now I have to cross the forest to reach Grisel's kingdom. The prospect of sinking into the woods in the middle of the night was not exactly the maiden's taste, after her previous experience. She now recalled how humiliating and terrifying it had been to keep the vegetation away and wade in the mud without knowing where she was going. Worse still, she had no guarantee she would be able to find her way a second time. After all, she had to wander for hours that time, and had only come back on a practicable path by sheer luck. Yet she had to ensure she would not be spotted, especially by the king's men. The princess clearly remembered how she had crossed paths with the horse riders during her previous evasion. She certainly did not want to come face to face with them. Fiona sighed deeply. She had no other option. This too shall pass. Torch in hand, she entered the forest surroundings but chose to stay in the vicinity of the road, watching it with great caution. With this compromise, she was hoping to avoid getting lost while having the possibility to hide the moment any suspicious sounds would resound. Her disappearance should not be noticed before sunrise, which gave her little leeway to walk as long as her legs would allow her. Although the forest atmosphere was as oppressive as ever, the young woman tried to focus on something else, both as a way to reassure herself and so time would go by more quickly. She rummaged through her thoughts, seeking for any element that could distract her, and her mind dwelled on Fleur. Mechanically, Kiona stopped for a few seconds. Fleur. Her memory was still haunting her. Everything had happened so quickly, so abruptly. One moment they were best friends in the world, the next they were deadly enemies. Even though farm life had certainly been no bed of roses, she had spent magical moments with the Anselm family, her adoptive family. Among other things, she remembered Fleur's pranks, particularly her penchant for water battles in the stream to escape the heat, the pride she had felt by earning her meals, by learning to make cheese, and also the nights of vigil where they would gaze at the stars, the rainy days confined in the shack where they would tell stories. The young farmer's smile could not have been a lie, not after all those things they had experienced together, the hardships they had both overcome. Those wonderful days had been erased by the hateful expression Fleur had displayed the day before, coldly sentencing her to death. How could they have come to that? Where had Kiona been mistaken? One image came to her mind. The adolescent was yelling amidst her sobs, red with anger. Liar, you betrayed me. I was extending a hand and you rejected me. The princess was struck with realization. What if she had shared her identity with Fleur earlier? What if she had explained to her that she intended to compensate the family for their hospitality? Perhaps the young girl would have understood. Perhaps she would have appreciated the gesture. Perhaps she would have caught sight of the light at the end of the tunnel, of misfortunes that had descended upon her. There was no way to know with certainty now, yet Kiona could not help but think that she had probably been overconfident, and she could have talked about her plan to her friend. The latter seemed so desperate. Perhaps if the princess had paid more attention, she would have noticed the Ansel family's distress. She's reflecting! Oh, oops. A distress so powerful, it had compelled the farmer to commit cold-blooded murder. They were ready to put their lives on the line. Kiona stepped over a root while watching over the road with a pensive look. Deep down in her heart, she did not quite know what to make of the treason of Fleur and her parents. Did she forgive them? In truth, this was of little importance. Now that she possessed the fabulous power, the princess felt lonelier than ever. She'd attempted to explain the situation to Nahima, but she did not appear to want to hear what she had to say. It was hard to blame the servant. Her ramblings about time travel must have seemed so bizarre. Fiona froze once again, to let out a sigh. I suppose such is the fate of all exceptional individuals. We must carry our burden in solitude. I cannot talk about my past experiences in other timelines to anyone, not even Nahima. This is a gift that has been bestowed upon me so I could change the future. I must prove I am worthy of it. Even though the torch flickering flame shed the necessary light for her journey, it was not enough to protect the princess from the ambient cold. As she kept shivering, she soon became unable to think straight and decided it was very much the right moment to take a welcome break. She explored her surroundings and after a while, eventually found a hollow tree, the cracks large enough for her to slip inside and curl in a position that would allow her to retain the maximum amount of heat possible. Satisfied, She took a last look around in order to memorize her current position. She then quenched her torch and placed it on a trunk in plain view, so its end would indicate the direction of the road. With this done, she settled in her makeshift shelter and fell asleep. In no doubt, thanks to the new habit of sleeping on a plain mat she had developed with the farmers, Kiona woke up at daybreak in far better conditions than previously. After swiftly stretching out, she went to pick up her extinguished torch and decided to turn it into a walking pole for the rest of the day. How tall is this torch? Repeating the same strategy the night before, the young woman continued along the forest border while keeping an eye on the path. At one point, she took the liberty of briefly getting out of the woods to read a sign and discovered, delightedly, she was already in Prince Griselde's kingdom. At another point, the rumbling of galloping horses invited her to crouch behind a bush. Understanding it was indeed her father's horse riders, the princess evaluated that she could now walk directly on the road without fear. She was then blinded by the dazzling rays of the sun for a few moments. Here we go. When she finally became able to distinguish her surroundings again, she was pleased to discover a familiar landscape. It was a valley where she had met Fleur for the very first time, the same valley she had strode along numerous times before driving the animals to pasture. Kiona recognized a lake near which she had talked with Prince Griselde and the towers of his castle in the distance. The castle she had never visited. A wave of nostalgia overwhelmed her without warning. As she was busy admiring the pastoral view lying before her, the princess suddenly noticed figures moving amidst the field. She stopped breathing. Could it be? Oh my god, it's Fleur! She had to be sure. Internally seething, Kiona hurried up and kept moving forward until she was able to surmise that it was a shepherdess and her sheep. It's Fleur! Danganronpa, what are you talking about? Cerise, also good morning. The coincidence seemed too strong. The time, the place. There was every reason to believe that this kid was... Little by little, she became certain it was indeed Fleur, who was joyfully trotting around in her direction. Fleur! The princess's heart was racing so hard in her chest that she firstly did not know what to do. Should she speak to her? Ignore her? If she were to rely on Ahima's incredulous reaction, it would be unlikely the farmer remember anything. The two maidens were nothing more than strangers now. Kiona could not entirely convince herself that all those moments of complicity had just disappeared. But how should she behave around her? Unaware of the princess's turmoil, Fleur was peacefully leading her sheep on the path. The weather was lovely, and she was in a good mood. The young girl had just left the farm, and she was already looking forward to placing herself in the shade of the glaring sun. As she was proceeding, she noticed a strangely dressed woman walking in the opposite direction. A traveler, dressed in donkey skin? Well, well, that's not very common. What an odd thing to wear to roam the country. The unusual vision made her lose precious seconds of attention, and Monty took advantage of the opportunity to run off. Monty, come back here! Farmer chased after the animal and managed to catch up just as it was reaching the stranger. Considering someone had seen her making a fool of herself, her cheeks took on a reddish shade as she was timidly looking up. Monty bolted! R.I.P. Good day to you. The stranger has simply greeted her. Instinctively, Fleur responded, Good day to you too. Are we leaving? Without stopping, she smiled at her and continued on her way. The young girl barely had time to catch a glimpse of her dark skin and face. However, she had the vague impression that she knew this person. Was it something familiar? Fleur pulled herself together and shrugged. Now was not the time to be daydreaming. There was work to be done. As the farmer was going her separate way, while merrily whistling, Kiona picked up the pace without looking back, heavy-hearted. He had politely greeted her. She had formalized the fact that they did not know each other anymore, princess was convinced that their relationship could have worked had she not been so selfish, but she did not have the strength to renew that now lost ties. Forgive me, Fleur. I cannot start from scratch again and pretend to become your friend, as if nothing had happened, as if our story had never taken place. I cannot look you in the eye and claim that we have never met. That is too hard for me. No! Kiona raised her eyes and contemplated the blue sky with melancholy. Nahima did mention the most important thing was for me to forge ahead. I can't believe this. True to her resolution, the princess still wished to marry Griselda. Seeing as their first meeting had gone pretty well, and that going back to live with the Anselm family was filling her with apprehension, she had judged the best strategy was still to get hired at the castle. She needs to learn from Healer and Noxu. What is she going to learn from Healer and Noxu? Thus, she would be as close as possible to her beloved, and she believed there would be no shortage of attempts to approach him. Thence, she was heading for the towers, her heart full of hope. When Kiona finally caught a glimpse of civilization, it took her breath away. The prince's sumptuous castle was perched at the top of a hill. How to lie for love. I don't think Noxu ever lied for love. I think she was just straight up lying. However, the city had clearly expanded over time, and a dense strip of habitations, the outskirts, extended the lord's domain to a second ring of fortifications. Having lived in her family's remote palace for her entire life, moreover, at a period of deterioration where her people would rather migrate, the princess had never set foot in a city as populated as this one. Thus, she naturally felt a mix of anxiety and excitement. She whispered while crossing the portcullis, I feel like she should probably change her clothes now. And Griselda's domain is so big. Ooh! No sooner had she set foot in the city than all of her senses were thrown into turmoil. The background art is so lovely. The narrow and distorted streets that were running through the city seemed trapped in a permanent state of chiaroscuro? One part shrouded in darkness, the other part bathed in light. At the bottom of the timbered houses, there were shops directly open onto the cobbled pathway, and artisans of all sorts were working in plain view. Just gonna boop. Ignore that. Under the windows, one could admire stalls in which they displayed their goods. The streets were bustling with passerby, and all the people were hurrying along in a constant cacophony amplified by the exclamations of peddlers and hawkers who were shouting, each one more than the other. Lost in that mess, Kiona attempted to make her way through, aimlessly. She soon found out that the pathways were crossed by canals, authentic open sewers, which emitted a stench that was hardly bearable. As she wandered, she also observed that the city's largest area was most likely the church square, and that the tinkling of the bells, although contributing to the general chaos, was quite convenient to keep an eye on the passage of time. Not the stinky streets. Unfortunately, I feel like that's just a commonality in any kind of middle-aged time period setting. The princess would have gladly imitated a group of young people by enjoying a waffle, but she had no money on her. The conclusion was unambiguous. I absolutely need to find a way to make a living until I am able to meet the prince. Someone might accept to employ me somewhere. I've no choice but to try my luck. Employ you as what? Tired and hungry, Kiona started looking for a home without delay. As there were plenty of artisans and easily accessible ones at that, she inquired from various shops if they were looking for an apprentice. Baker, tailor, barber, cooper, furrier, weaver, potter, carpenter, blacksmith, every one of them looked at her with disdain. The princess eventually realized she might be too old for a master to deign to bequeath his craft to her. Even though the future was looking bleak, an opportunity finally appeared just as she was denied a place by the butcher. Are you looking for a job? Uh-oh, I'm worried. The question came out of the mouth of a customer who had witnessed the scene, a woman slightly older than her, a little on the plump side. Even though the woman's voice was soft, Kiona did not quite know what to say and simply nodded fearfully. Come on, don't be shy. Tell me, where are you from? The princess was caught off guard. Experience had taught her that it was better to keep a low profile and conceal her aristocratic status, so she would not reveal the truth to the stranger. Yet, it was also dangerous to invent a new identity because she did not know the details of the master's living conditions. One could easily see through her ruse. It was necessary to rely on something plausible, without exaggerating too much. Kiona thus opted for a half-truth. I used to live in a farm in the countryside. Oh, a farmer? What are you doing here, if it's not too indiscreet? It's rather uncommon to see ploughmen. They usually stay on their land. Following her reasoning to the extreme, the young woman resolved to make Fleur's story her own, because it was the one she knew best. My family fell victim to poor harvests, and famine took them all, so I came in town to seek a better fortune. This trick seemed sufficiently convincing, seeing as her interlocutor's face immediately darkened. I see. And has it been a long time since your arrival? No, I have only been here a few hours. I walked without interruption since yesterday's night to reach the city. I have not yet had a chance to eat or find a place to sleep. I do not know what to do now. The customer let out a pitying sigh. Poor child. I feel like we're really lucky with running into people who want to help us. Kiona did not seem to interpret this display of compassion and looked down. This apparent humility finished convincing the good woman, who was already moved by her predicament and her simultaneously curious and pitiful garb. Come to think of it, Prince Griselda is about to organize a great tournament. We need additional workforce at the castle. Would you like to work as a retainer? Oh, well, how fitting! The princess did not believe her ears. She was offered no more and no less than a position in her beloved's palace. What a godsend! Oh, she's gonna find out how badly he treats everyone, probably. In a grip of emotion, she threw herself in the arms of her benefactress. Oh, that would be a great honor! The good woman did not expect such a display of tenderness and could not help laughing. Easy, easy. You wouldn't want to break my back, would you? Kiona instantaneously ceased her embrace and stepped back with an embarrassed look. Hi, I'm Berth, a cook in the Prince Grisel's service. And you, what's your name? This time, the princess understood it was not wise on her part to give her real name, and preferred to use a nickname Fleur had given her. People call me Donkey Skin. The cook, meet Berth. Nice to meet you, Donkey Skin. You're quite lucky one of the servants has been ill today. I'm replacing them because this is an emergency, but I'm usually not one in charge of doing errands. Berth gave a vigorous and happy slap on the back of the poor girl, who did not expect such force. Well, anyway, I don't want to appear rude, but I still have a lot on my plate. Come, follow me. The cook thanked the butcher for his hard work, and while filling her basket with meat, she beckoned Kiona to help her. She did not need to be asked twice. As the two women were laboriously going up the cobbled streets, their arms full with victuals, Berth explained to her recruit what her new life would be like. It's quite simple. The castle is restless because of the tournament's preparations, and an extra pair of hands will be more than welcome. You'll be a goose herder. Oh no! Every morning you'll lead the geese outside the city so they can graze in the fields and fatten. Do you know what to do? Yes, madam. Perfect. Do be careful not to lose a single one of them. The king cares a lot about his animals. Of course we become a goose herder. I will be vigilant. Very good. You'll be assigned as a multi-purpose servant in the afternoon. There's always a task waiting to be done here. You'll have plenty of work. Nevertheless, it's possible to choose yours by negotiating with the other retainers. We have a meeting every night before curfew to confirm that everything has been done and assign roles. Volunteer, and we should be able to come to an agreement everyone is satisfied with. Very well, madam. Once your afternoon work is done, you'll have 1 or 2 hours of free time until dinner. Use it as you see fit, but know that giving a hand to other people will always be appreciated. It's geese time! Oh, so we have castle mechanics. Doesn't mean you have to overwork yourself. I will keep that in mind. As they had passed the city and were now entering the castle's inner walls, Berth stopped dead in her tracks. Tell me, have you ever served a chatelaine before? Never, madam, but I will do the best I can. I don't doubt it, it's just that you are speaking awfully well for a country girl. Ugh! Kiona shuddered. The cook immediately noticed her manners. Despite her best efforts to use less formal turns of phrases and vocabulary, as she had done with Fleur, the exercise was not fully spontaneous to her, and it showed. I am merely trying to be polite. Berthe shrugged and continued on her way. Well, whatever. It could always come in handy if we ever make contact with the king. The distant chimes of the bells made Berthe jump. My goodness, already? I don't have much time before tonight's service. Listen, I'd love to take care of you, but I'm going to be very busy the next couple of hours. I'm going to ask you to sit down in a discreet corner of the kitchen and not move until I've called you. Sit in your corner, Kione, and do not do anything. Understood. I will make myself inconspicuous. We did it! We're in the castle! And we are almost at 4 hours, so I will stop for today and get some food because I'm hungry, even though I have been eating almost the entire stream. I think I ate right when we started, and then I had like some toast during it. So, listen, it's good to eat. All right, on that note, I am going to go and continue this next week. I am really enjoying this. I love the writing. I think it's really fun. I also love that Kione is a very multifaceted character. She's obviously raised in, you know, such a noble state and has her own issues, and I love that. I love that for her. I think it also kind of like, I think I like that we didn't make the villagers bullies, but at the same time, obviously, they have things that they're worried and scared about themselves, and obviously that drove them to not trust Kione once she revealed that she was a noble, because she didn't tell them. And so I do understand, like, obviously, horrendous thing to do to just drown someone, but I understand where it came from. And I like that we're seeing Kione become more and more manipulative over time. If only as a means to protect herself, but I like that we're seeing that about her, and she's noticing that too. But I like that we also chose not to go and stay with Fleur's family, because even that's too much for Kione. I like her as a character. As a person, I'm like, I can't. And on that note, Murdoch. It's giving Murdoch if Murdoch was raised in royalty.